Good evening. Welcome to the Marion City Council regular meeting. Today is August 6, 2024, 7 p.m. And we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I would like to begin by inviting Pastor Andrew Morrell from Real Community Covenant Church to the microphone to open us with prayer. Thank you so much for coming, Pastor Morrell.
Let us just have a moment of silence to prepare our hearts and minds for gathering together tonight. God, tonight we ask that you would bring your spirit of peace upon us. We pray, Lord, for listening ears and open hearts as we learn new things, as we celebrate old things, and as we talk about new business. We pray, God, that we would have open ears and open hearts to work together for the good of the city. Ultimately, that is your goal, to see a community flourishing. And we ask this in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, and I'll lead in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you could take roll call.
Kane.
Here.
Marshall.
Here.
Fordyce.
Here.
Brunner.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Devine.
Here.
Witten.
Yes.
Cowgill.
Here.
McKinley.
Here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into the neighborhood spotlight. And tonight we're going to spotlight the Marion Public Library new director, Miss Jamie Pitt, and I'm going to hand the microphone over to Councilman Klein to introduce her.
Thank you. I am happy to welcome Jamie Pitt. I know she's here someplace. There she is, to the microphone. You can run, but you can't hide. She's the new director of the Marion Public Library, and new is in about a handful a month tops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, anyway, welcome to the job. Welcome, City Council. All these people came out to hear you, you know. The microphone is yours. Please introduce yourself to the city. Tell us about your thoughts for the future of the library.
Sure. So my name is Jamie Pitt, and I was not expecting such a big crowd this evening. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about the Marion Public Library more than myself. I've been in libraries for 20 years, but I'd rather talk about the Marion Public Library and what a gift it is to the community. I would like to start by thanking Mayor Morrell for putting literacy at the forefront of this community and making it a priority, because literacy is important to our community. And so, Marion Common Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. It is an honor to stand before you and discuss something that touches the very heart of our community, the Marion Public Library. For many Americans, their fondest memory involves a library card. Think back to your childhood and maybe getting your own first library card, maybe checking out that first book, and what a special gift that was. The Marion Public Library has been a cornerstone of our city. It's been serving our community since 1884. That's 140 years. That is really significant. And the building has been at the corner of 6th and Washington since 1902. And it was established with funds from Andrew Carnegie with $50,000, but with the stipulation that the city provided $5,000 per year. And not only a financial commitment, but it was a commitment to ensuring that knowledge remained accessible to all. And so the original building, the original Carnegie Building, is now the Indiana History and Genealogy Center. And it stands as a testament to the library's rich history and ongoing dedication to preserving our county, our city's cultural history. And so as we expanded in 1991 and built the new library, we expanded to reflect the growing needs of the community and to provide a welcoming space for everyone. And so today, I want to highlight the importance of fostering a love for reading, especially among our young patrons. Reading aloud to children, whether they are little or big, can significantly enhance their engagement with stories. It helps them access storylines, model fluency and expression, and create a deeper connection with the stories by choosing books that reflect their interests, whether it's sports, whether it's books about trucks, whether it's books about artists or architecture or even animals. The library makes reading an exciting and personal experience. So, encouraging kids to explore new words and ideas while reading can transform reading into a solitary experience, into a world of imagination. And what better way to engage them than by getting them their own library card? There's something magical about browsing the library shelves and having a personal stake in checking out books. It's an experience that not only builds excitement, but also instills a sense of ownership and responsibility. In closing, the Marion Public Library is more than just a repository of books. It is a beacon of knowledge, community, and lifelong learning. As we move forward, let us continue to support and celebrate this vital institution, ensuring it remains a place where curiosity thrives and where every individual has the opportunity to explore. And I know most of you are familiar with the quote by Gandhi, which says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And so I'm asking the council members and the community to be an example, to get library cards, to model reading to our children, because readers, they become leaders, and those leaders will change our community and will change our world. And so this evening, typically the community spotlight gets a picture, correct?
Correct. You're up. Yes.
So in this picture I have brought, and I have given each of the council members their own library card. And so I thought we could have our library cards taken with their picture. So
Okay.
even Mr. Harper.
Sounds great. Okay, go and come on up. Let's get this picture and deliver these library cards.
And any of you who do not have a library card, please come to Marion Public Library. And Eric, if you don't have yours, here's one for the picture. And here's one for the picture if you don't have it. You are welcome.
All right, hold your cards up. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie.
I got two.
I also need to give a public shout out. I just had my first grandchild and she gave me a book for my first grandchild. So thank you. It's very sweet. Yeah. Okay. We are going to go ahead and move on. We would have had a first responder spotlight, but because of the National Night Out, the firefighters are out there. They were grilling out, but we do have 2 firefighters that we're going to highlight next meeting. So look forward to highlighting them. So hopefully all of you come back just for that. So we're going to move on to approval of minutes from July 16th, 2024. Madam Clerk. Oh, yeah, geez, go ahead.
Second.
Yep, we got a motion by Vice President Cowgill, a second by Councilman Kane. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill.
Aye.
McKinley.
Abstain. Okay, moving on to the approval of the executive session minutes. All the council members should have received that. I would entertain a motion for that.
I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kane, second by Councilman Fordyce. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Abstain.
McKinley.
Yes. Okay, moving into the consideration of pre-approved claims. I would entertain a motion.
So be it. Second.
Motion by Vice President Cowgill, a second by Councilman Kane. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Yes.
McKinley.
Yes. Now on to the consideration of claims. I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the claims.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Klein. A second, was that Councilman Marshall? Okay, any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. And moving on to committee reports. Do we have any council members with committee reports? Councilman Klein?
Yeah, the Board of Aviation Commissioners met August 1st. The main focus of the meeting was the design and the placement of the new fuel tanks. And that includes estimate on the piping and how the road may or may not need to be altered to accommodate the semi-tractor trailer that refills the tanks. It's going to need to be bigger since we're getting bigger tanks. And the flight cadet program is going well. Students are getting time in the air and in the classroom. And I thank you.
Any other council members? Councilwoman Devine?
I was unable to attend the Board of Works meeting yesterday, but I had a synopsis sent to me just so that we would have an update on what happened. There was a new SOP presented by Chief Gilbert to the board regarding, I think it was deadly force. So that was pretty interesting, and I know they had a good discussion about it. They also had the presentation from Jeff and Chuck from Transportation, doing their annual review after NDOT does their review, and they got a perfect score again, which is a good thing. So that means that program's running well and doing everything that's expected of it for the grant money that they give us. So that's what they talked about.
Thank you so much. Any other council members with committee reports? Okay, all right. So we're going to go ahead and move forward, and on the agenda under unfinished business, there is an additional appropriation, but I'm going to request under new business resolution 8-2024 for the River Ox to be moved to the beginning of the meeting. We do have legal counsel here that we're paying by the hour. So, and also gentlemen traveled from out of town, so we'll be respectful of that. So we would like to move that to the beginning of the meeting to get that out of the way. And I would entertain a motion to move the resolution 8-2024 to the beginning?
I will move, we move the resolution 8-2024 to the head of the agenda.
Second.
All right. I have a motion by Councilman Klein. I'll give that second to Councilman Brunner. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordyce,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and just move into resolution 8-2024.
A resolution approving the project agreement for River Rocks, speaking city administration.
Good evening, City Council. It's an honor again to be up here every 2 weeks to talk to you all, and I really appreciate it. First, President McKinley, can I get on your screen? I'm very honored about this. We've been, as you know, we started with developing the Riverfront District, which would have been a couple months ago now. We also voted on the Dora District, which would have been the same time. And this is one of the things that I had in mind, to be able to do a major development down the area to attract and retain talent to the city of Marion, encourage further economic development. And in that quest, came across a gentleman by the name of Shelby Bowen, who is, he'll tell you more of his story when he gets up here, but he's a Marion native. And he specializes in projects like this of the sort. So as we've been working through this now, which is, I guess, we're probably approaching 4 or so months, we've been putting this together. And it's moved along at a great pace that I've been happy with. And now here we are of the, I guess we call it where the rubber meets the road, and we go through this, and we can turn something that's one of my sayings has been turned blight into beautiful, right? So it's this area in downtown Marion that's been vacant and blighted for a countless amount of years now. We have the chance to turn this into a beautiful destination, if you will, for the city of Marion. And it's something I don't take lightly. And actually, I'm very excited about it, to be able to capitalize on what I believe is our blight elimination program, as well as our Clean City Marion, and wrapping that up into this major development. One thing that I would like to point out, this is the first ground up new development of this magnitude in Marion, and I've checked now for the last 13 years. So we're doing something, that is, we have the opportunity to do something that hasn't been done in Marion in over a decade. So without further ado, I'll call up Shelby Bowen of Rebar Development and Marion native.
Welcome, Shelby.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council, mayor, you and your team for your hospitality. Really excited to be back home here in Marion. I was born and raised here, graduated from Marion High School just a couple years ago. And if you saw the paper and the press release in anticipation of having this opportunity for you all to consider this project, it talked about kind of this dream or vision. And when the mayor and I met earlier this year, I noticed right away that he and I shared a passion for trying to move Marion forward. So what could we do individually and working together and all of our resources to try to accomplish something here in the city we both love and grew up in? And I'll say I have some history here with this project. I've shared this with others, but the name River Rock Lofts have actually had for the better part of, I think, around 10 years. And if you were to go down Adams Street today, where it tees into the river, you will see this really out of place boulder that's sitting there. And that's me. I put that there about 10 years ago. That's the River Rock. And it's been there since we applied for Stellar. And I've had a dream that this was an important initiative of downtown development. And then since that time, we've been fortunate enough as a firm to deliver a lot of really cool projects that have been that first domino in new development in communities that are ready to invest in that growth. So I'd love the opportunity to present this project to you and ask for your support. We're an experienced team. I've completed about 10 projects total throughout central Indiana. A lot that we're all proud of. The closest one I think is in Yorktown. It's called the Oliver, and the mayor and his team have visited and have seen our work. It's a really beautiful Class A project there, and we've got others in central Indiana. Of course, I invite anybody who wants to tour our projects or talk to our partners. Our architect team and design team and all of our project partners are highly accomplished, a lot of successful projects. And so I'm really fortunate to have that group. When the mayor took office and started working with the council to set out that vision or refine that vision, I think we've all known, certainly you all have, I've been following along, that there is an opportunity to improve the current environment here downtown and across the city. And when I saw some of the initiatives that the council was taking, and I met the mayor and we talked about our desire to see growth and movement and progress, I was really inspired through some of those initiatives that relate to things that I think our firm is good at and we have invested in other communities. And you see those kind of set out. We pulled some of the language from both when you set out to create the district and DORA and other initiatives in your early planning. And then, of course, you know, the district that you all have created here downtown. And then now, of course, the project site, which the city over the years has acquired and demolished, and I think is an incredibly fantastic opportunity. The asset of the river is extraordinary. The proximity to downtown, I think, is awesome, especially with some of the projects that have already happened in the last several years. And so for us, this is really an awesome spot for us to try to do something special. Go ahead, Mayor, one more. Here is the proposed site plan. There's a little bit of, there's a power line and a gas easement, and of course McClure's, and I know the McClure family, and we talked about this and being neighbors, but there are some things there, and what we've been able to do is really set out a site plan that takes full advantage of this parcel, working around some of our neighbors and the easements in place. What I love about this project proposal and this site plan is all of the apartments are facing the river. There are none facing, what is that, south? I have the directions correct there, I think so. And so this is really maximizing, I mean, it's just such an extraordinary place, because I try to design projects. I have a little more local knowledge here, but I think, where would I want to live? And what would I like to see out my window and on my balcony? And I just love the way this is laid out. You can see we're proposing kind of a shared public-private plaza. I just think there's a cool opportunity to enhance Adams Street. I mean, we're just right there. And so making that connection more walkable, bike-friendly, and then creating kind of a plaza that anchors this downtown project as you kind of think about hitting the Riverwalk or the plans that you all have to the east. This just could be a really cool kind of public plaza area. This is kind of the first proposed plan with a little bit of commercial space on Adams. There's a lot of folks already in Marion that are working hard for their businesses to succeed, and we're not looking to compete with those folks. We want all high tide to raise all ships. So we've been mindful of adding some commercial space because I think we could succeed here. It'd be a cool place to have a small business or a small restaurant, but not too much where we overwhelm our neighbors. We want to add to what's happening here, not make it harder for other folks. And so we've tried to reach that balance here, and it's close to parking and street parking, and I think be a great spot for commercial use. Upper floors, this is a 4-story building. We're just trying to make the most of the site and the views, and it will have an elevator. And you can see all the apartments here. It's 44 apartments and about 3,000 square feet of commercial space. The renderings, which I'm very proud, and I would encourage you all who are, I'm sure have already researched rebar development, is, go ahead, Mary, you can go to the next slides. I am really proud of the fact that if you went and visited our completed projects, and I put the rendering next to it, we've at least, or in most cases, exceeded the expectation, because I know the initial thought is, oh, this is pretty shiny, you know, of course, great presentation. but we have executed projects to back up high quality materials, great outdoor streetscape and public spaces, big balconies, great views. It'll be a mix of materials between cast stone, brick, and hardy plank panel. All of the finishes, exterior and interior, are high quality, considered Class A. One of the things we're proud of is regardless of the community where we invest and build projects, these finishes are top notch. So we don't go, oh, it's only 44 units and it's in over here and it's not in, this city. So maybe we can just not have as good of finishes. I think the mayor can support the fact that we use the best quality materials and finishes. These will be wonderful apartments for people to live. Project facts, of course, you know about our investment, 10.8 million, commercial space, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartments, common areas. And then in this building, despite the fact that it's only 44 units, we will have an amenity room right on the plaza. We'll have gas grills for our residents to use, fire pits. But that's with the amount of renters who have pets, it's an important amenity, indoor bike storage, and of course, proximity to all the great things that are already here. Project highlights, again, I pulled a lot of this from your plans, your goals for downtown and your goals for development. And what I can say consistently, having completed enough of these projects to see the outcomes, is this is not, this is real stuff. This is kind of a domino. Now, does it change the world? Just one project? Certainly not. But it's an important kind of domino towards those goals, and it does matter. And if you talk to employers that visit Marion, I can assure you they're going to want to see the River Rock Lofts as a potential place for their employees and the folks they recruit that they may want to live. And so I believe strongly in these highlights. As the mayor said, we've been able to move quickly because we have a shared vision. You all have been prudent with your financial resources. You've got a good team in place. So we have confidence in our partnership with the city of Marion. So we're requesting that you approve the project agreement. And then we'll need, and I know your council would, if he is not already advised you, there's a due diligence period. So we agree to this agreement, but we still have a lot of work to do on Rebar's side to complete our plans, investigate further the site. And so before your commitment is in place, you'll be able to see that we've done all of our due diligence. We'll have our financing, we'll put in our own equity, and that's all a requirement before you all make any commitment. We could start construction probably more realistically the beginning of the year. A lot of that's weather dependent, but the goal is we'll get started as soon as we can heading into next year. And we hope to have folks living there by early spring of 26. I believe that's presentation. I'm certainly open for questions. And of course, the project agreement outlines a request from us for your support. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the agreement or the project, or personally or professionally. Yes, sir.
Hi, could you go back to the first one, the big overview slide?
Of the site plan.
Yeah, please. The map. My question, and I'm trying, my eyes aren't good enough to see it from here. Where is the old Frank's Piston? Where does that property fall in there?
Across the street.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to pay. It's across, okay.
Across the street. Behind fences.
You follow my mouse right there? Right
Oh, the old
Right
pits?
behind fences.
The old Frank's Piston, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's way up.
Right behind fences.
So it's okay, because I know the city leases it, and I didn't know if the city was planning to incorporate that into it and deal with, it's about halfway through the lease, if I remember what I remember, and I didn't know if that was gonna be incorporated and what the city planned.
That's a bigger vision, but not part of this project. We're trying to figure out how to buy it.
Okay. Thank you.
What is your like your 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, what kind of a price range are you looking at?
The 1 bed, 1 bath will start at around $1,300 a month, and the 2 bed, 2 bath will start out around $1,700 a month and up. Some of it depend on what floor and your view, and the size of those units.
Shelby, how much are you relying on there being a decent winter? Because, you know, we could have one of those winters where it snows every day, and talk to us about what that's gonna mean, one way or
Sure.
the other.
Yeah, great question. So where we have the current planning is to straddle the fence on that, meaning the site work can happen during the winter. So we hope to get started, and we've got some flexibility. The size of the project is that we could actually get it enclosed and nearly finished by the end of the 25 going into the next winter, when the building would be covered and heated and we can be finishing the interior of the units. So barring some anomaly, it shouldn't affect our construction timeline.
Thank you.
Any other council members? Councilman Fordyce?
Great, thank you.
I appreciate your investment
Thank you.
in the city of Marion and taking place, especially downtown. As the mayor said, we needed it, and he's implemented it. I think it's fantastic. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And I know that we're gonna help with part of that project on the infrastructure and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
And then you're gonna do a $3.5 million TIF bond on that. I
Yes.
take it that Barnes Thornburg's writing the bonds for you?
Correct, yes.
Who's your trustee on the bonds?
Who do you all use? So you'll get to select the trustee?
Yeah, we haven't made that determination at this time, but we will throughout the bond process.
Normally, financial institution, do you usually use a financial institution like a bank? Okay, you just haven't picked that yet? Okay. That's the only questions I have. I
Okay.
appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Klein?
Yeah, this is just a thought. Drew Klasik used to be charged of Indiana fiscal policy and a retired economist. And I just remember him preaching that if you want to improve your town, you want to improve your city, you've got to give people a reason to move there. You've got to give people a reason to live there. And in my book, from what I've heard, if there's something hidden, I've missed it. But in my book, this sounds like something that fits what Drew Klasik would say. So thank you.
Yeah, Drew Klasik spoke at Indiana Wesleyan about 10 years ago, and he said, if you weren't investing in your community, you were just managing the decline. And that really stuck with me, really. I mean, that's why I totally recognize Drew Klasik's name and his vision for trying to inspire communities to continue to grow.
Councilwoman Devine?
As far as figuring up the rents per month, couple questions with that. Did that include utilities, remind me?
Some utilities are included, water and sewer and trash, and then the residents will pay their own electric bill. And our internet is included, but in addition to rent, and that'll probably be $60 a month. There's no equipment rental, there's no contract. You move in, you get your internet and Wi-Fi password, and when you move out, you turn it off. It's pretty slick, and it costs less than the other providers. Hopefully nobody from Comcast or AT&T is here. This is where we beat them on price and product.
Okay. And then how do those rent prices compare to the other units you've done, like in Yorktown and similar communities?
Yeah, that's a good question, because what's interesting about this kind of product, especially when it's new, now Mike Halstead's project at Ridley Towers kind of proven that there's another tier of renters and rent prices here in Marion. And what we have found is it's sometimes hard to judge that you can achieve that level of rents, because the people who maybe would pay those are living elsewhere in a project like the one in Yorktown. I know we have people that work in Marion that live there, and these are comparable with Yorktown. The 2 bedrooms here are a little bit less than the ones we currently have priced in Yorktown. And we were pre-leased in Yorktown. There's 26 apartments there that we leased before we were done with construction. We've had a waiting list the last 2 years.
Okay. Then that was the other part, was how quickly you expect to hit 100% occupancy?
Well, you can never, I mean, it's real estate and there's risk. And as we sit here today, I have 0 tenants and I'm willing to make the investment, in Marion. But we've been fortunate in that the product we've delivered, we've leased up to 100% in all of our commercial and residential within the first 6 months. And that's all projects across the board.
Councilman Brennan?
Real quickly, Shelby, have you thought about any type of communication with the Grant County Family YMCA about how they might want to get involved with their proximity?
Yeah, 100%, because we typically would have fitness in our building, some form of that. But there are just so many, not just the Riverwalk, but the YMCA it's really almost going to be a part probably of our sales package, if you will, is try to create some partnership with the local YMCA.
Thank you.
Any other council members? Thank you so much, Shelby. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mayor, do you have anything else or anyone else you want to speak? Okay. All right. Well, as it pertains to Resolution 8-2024, I would entertain a motion.
Chairman, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'd make a motion to pass Resolution 8-2024.
I have a motion by Councilman Fordyce, second by Councilman Klein. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordyce,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. Resolution 8-2024 has passed. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into unfinished business. Additional appropriation ordinance 31-2024, second reading and public hearing.
An ordinance of the city of Marion, Indiana, appropriating $300,000 from the general fund for the IOOF cemetery. Speaking, Mayor Ronald Morrell, Jr.
Welcome back. I was hoping people showed up to hear about this tonight. So I'll kind of give an overview of why this showed up on the agenda. Trustee Kane sent this information to me, and I had been living, my family had always lived on Lincoln Boulevard my whole life, and the only thing I've ever known of this cemetery was to be a mess. I mean, I just thought it was that's all. That's the only thing I thought it was just a mess. I've never seen it in any other condition in my 31 years of life, and I lived on that street for 27 of my 31 years of life. So when she presented this to me with the possibility that there was a pathway or an avenue for us to be able to do something about that, I wanted to begin the process and doing whatever we could to be able to come towards a resolution. So here we are before you today. Is a request for money to be able to begin that process and take care of that cemetery. And I won't again, like I said the first time, I won't steal Trustee Kane's thunder. I'll let her do the presentation in more detail. But I just wanted to say that give the reason behind this and kind of give my history knowing of what that cemetery has looked like, in addition to our intentionality in addressing blight throughout the city. This has been one of those sores that has been there so long, you just think it's natural. You think there's no other option but for it to look that way. And I do believe that, again, another saying I've been adding to my mayor slogan bag is, Marion deserves nice things. And I think that it's our time to start addressing the things that aren't nice and bringing up the hope and pride in our community again. So without further ado, I bring up Trustee Kane to address you.
I want to thank the council for passing the ordinance onto the second reading public hearing. As I'm speaking, once again, pictures will be scrolling through. These are not the same pictures from the last hearing, but they were just taken within the last 3 to 6 days. They break my heart. I hope that you will hear what the community is saying in their communication to the council through email or by being here in the chambers in person. Mr. Fordyce questioned my knowledge that the cemetery was not in the city limits, but rather in the county. I had already confirmed that through the tax documents that it was, but I went to the expert Randy Miller, who was the surveyor that provided the documents to create the boundaries for the city of Marion, which includes the cemetery. He is here tonight to answer any questions you may have. I've also asked him to complete another updated survey for my records to have the exact division of county, city, along with the boundary lines of the cemetery. However, more than 3/4 of the 100 acres are in the city limits. I also have a written response from code enforcement regarding their responsibilities and their ability to take the additional workload, stating that the size of the cemetery would require daily upkeep. Our office does not have the manpower or additional time to maintain such a large area. Mr. Fosnight is here to answer any questions you may have of him. I had scheduled a video conference with the Attorney General's office, Aaron Tuttle, Legislative Director, Thomas Bright, Real Estate Litigation Section Chief, who put any complaints on a fast track file with the Attorney General Todd Rokita office. They also cited state statutes we spoke of in the first reading, in which the township has statutory right to move forward with correcting the situation in multiple ways, and provided guidance to the steps that can be taken. I have since received 2 decisions on complaints. In the letter states, since it appears that your office may be in a better position to assist in this matter, we are referring it to your attention. Please review this complaint and if needed, investigate further. We request that you please let our office know the outcome of any investigation so we may update our records accordingly. I have unanimous approval for my township board to pursue funding to continue pursuit of ensuring the cemetery can be taken care of in the manner that 36,000 plus persons buried on the grounds and the thousands of families affected by the current deplorable conditions deserve and I desire to provide. I am in legal proceedings and cannot release confidential information regarding where I am in the process. However, I would like to update to the council that the previous administratively dissolved corporation by the Secretary of State in June of 2023 failed to file the notice of change of governing persons dated December 16, 2021 to transfer the present title for the Marion Cemetery Corporation from Neil Jeffrey to his brother Brian Jeffrey. That was not officially filed by the Secretary of the Marion Corporation, Craig Persinger, 3 years ago. My understanding that has now been submitted as of July 29. The community now has 2 named board members rather than just a Secretary of State mandated dissolved corporation for not filing financial reports since 2018. I currently take care of 2 cemeteries located in my township. And Mr. President, if you could show those pictures.
I believe it's these. Is it the, nope. That's
Nope,
not it.
not that one.
Those are still bad ones. There we go.
That one. When I took office, I quickly replaced the sad-looking and falling apart wooden signs with a beautiful galvanized steel signs and had my lawn service begin trimming trees, cutting shrubs, and taking vegetation out of the cemetery and cutting them away from the headstones to protect them. Brandon is here to answer any questions you may have of my expectations of cemetery care. But as you can tell, I care about my cemeteries. I do not have funds in my budget, which is based on taxes, nor can I levy any additional taxes to take on this huge project. That is why I've come before you to ask for help. I'm also waiting for the county commissioners to respond to my ask for funding from the county. If the community desires to communicate their wishes and concerns to the commissioners, you can find their contact information on the Grant County website under county offices. Without both entities assisting with this initial funding request, I'm not sure if I can pursue further. As a community responded to my request for support, please contact the commissioners. The funds will be put in a non-reverting stipulated fund that will be under an ordinance for the care of the cemetery only. This fund will have monthly reporting to financial government and agencies, and no cash transactions will be conducted. Only bank checks will be used for all transactions. The move forward will take time. There's much to do along with the continuing negotiations. So if you pass the ordinance tonight, I beg the community to understand if they don't see changes immediately, I am, and I promise to be constantly pushing forward to obtaining funding for future care and returning the cemetery back to the pristine condition those buried there and their families deserve in honor and respect of the lives lived. Saturday, a very discouraging and sad situation was brought to my attention. And I got approval from the family to release the name of David Kinsey. Their family had their husband and father, who was a Vietnam veteran, exhumed from the cemetery, as they just could not accept the disrespect shown to their father for the lack of care provided to his gravesite. When he was buried, he's been buried there since 1977. Please do not let the voices of the past and the families go unheard. As one gentleman wrote in his letter to the council president, I believe that every generation should pay it forward to honor those who came before us. That belief will always materialize with unknown twists and turns, but will always be worth any effort taken to keep our heritage alive for future generations. Listen to our voices. And it's said 1,000 words, a picture is 1,000 words. And as you're seeing these pictures up here, these pictures, excuse me, these pictures broke my heart. I could hardly sleep that night. I was out at the grave at the cemetery, and I saw the burning embers of a fire that was only 2 feet from a headstone. Then I saw a pile of nice, freshly piled dirt with tracks going between headstones. So I walked over there. If you see, as you see, there are headstones buried. I'm sorry, there are headstones buried and covered with rock and stone and dirt. You can barely see the headstones, and as the president scrolls through those, you can pick out where some of the headstones are barely showing above the stones and the dirt in the pile. The last picture is the one that says it all.
That one?
The father's headstone had been knocked over by the tractor and just laid. If you do not support this ordinance and help me in the township, these situations are on your shoulders and not mine. Thank you.
really appreciate that, Trustee Kane. I was present at your county council meeting, and I knew at that moment that you had a lot of investment into this, so I appreciate that. Was there anyone else that you wanted to speak, or, okay, fantastic. So I'd like to go ahead and just have a discussion, maybe be able to ask questions. Well, we'll go to a public hearing as well, so some of this might be public hearing, but we'll go ahead and just open up discussion, be able to ask you questions if you don't mind. I know Vice President Calgill would like to say a few things.
I've been working on this project with Deb since we started this, and my sister's here, she can attest to this. My mother and my father are both buried out there. My grandparents are buried out there. A number of aunts, for the most part, most of my family's buried there. And I remember the days when I was a kid, when that cemetery looked like the other two that Deb has now, that Brandon does such a great job on. But over the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, I'm really big on respect. Anybody that knows me knows that. And I don't think that there's a way that you can disrespect somebody more than this. I mean, the family that had to exhume their father out of there and their husband. Man, somebody shouldn't even never have to do that. And then they spend good money to have it done because they love their family enough. And he's a Vietnam veteran. I mean, come on, guys. This, there's what, 35, 36,000 headstones out there. That's a lot of families. That it's like somebody doesn't care. And it's just, I can't stand it anymore. I can't. I'd like to ask a little thing too. Anybody that's here for the cemetery tonight, can you just raise your hand? I don't see how anybody can vote no on this. I truly don't. This is, I'm disgusted by it all. I'm tired of, we have seen people, we've seen a couple of elderly ladies that was trying to get a push mower out of the back of an SUV so they can take care of their daughter's grave. We've seen that too many times. I took care of my family's graves too many times. We talk about progress. We talk about beautifying Marion and stuff. Well, then let's start here, the place that we should start, and give our family the respect that they owe. I told Dad when we was out there one time, we was at a point where you could see just tons and tons of headstones as far as back. And I told her, I said, now I want you to imagine every person that's in their grave, they're standing beside their headstones. Look at that. Look at the history we got there. Look at the stories that their families and their loved ones. And the loved ones that are alive now that want to honor our family, they deserve the same respect too. When you bury somebody, you do it on the hopes that it's going to be taken care of. And it's a big cemetery out there. It's huge. But the way it looks, it's enough's enough. And I encourage each one of my fellow councilmen to let's do something.
Thank you, Vice President Calgill. I do have a couple questions, Trustee Kane. I definitely think we need to be doing something about it, and I support your efforts. Mine's more of a technical thing on the resolution, or not the resolution, I'm sorry, the ordinance, just the way it was written. I just want to make sure if we were to approve this that it's written properly in the ordinance. So basically the ordinance, to be frank with you, which is like, it's very brief. And it's not you, actually, and I might have the mayor hopefully answer or comment on this. It just says 300,000 to IOOF cemetery. So more of a technical thing, so if your office were to take that over, is it still legally called, I don't know who can answer, still legally called the IOOF cemetery? I just want to make sure with this, how this is written, I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves into an issue. And also, I think you did comment on this would go into a non-reverting fund. My question, and again, maybe the mayor can answer this, is if this were to be approved, would the money, are you requesting the money to be transferred immediately or the city to hold the money until you were to legally take possession if that does occur? Is that what you're requesting? Yeah, okay.
It's not called the IOOF now. We've all known that for years. It's the estates, of
Serenity.
Serenity. Thank you, everybody. So that is the legal name of it. As far, I would, and if it's all right with the mayor and everything, I would even make a motion that if it is approved, that it's written that the money stays with the city, the money stays with the controller's office until it would be conveyed to the township's office. And then at that point, when she is responsible, that it could be transferred in. Now, if we need like some type of allocation for expense or something, then she would come in. But other than that, the money stays with the city. I don't think it should go to Deb until it's completely done anyway.
Right, and now I appreciate you.
You agree, Deb?
Yeah, that's what we talked about, and we also mentioned that to the mayor today when we had a phone call, that would be our desire. Because I still have some litigations and I'm, to go through.
Yeah, and I understand you still have to get through all that, and I just without looking at anything the way it was, I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you for bringing that up.
If we were to pursue, and there's a consensus by the council to approve this, that we will possibly need to make an amendment to make sure that's clarified in the language.
Yes.
The other thing, so what Vice President Calgo said about the city holding on to it until there was a legal takeover of the cemetery, if that does occur. To also, I don't know, maybe add language to say, to amend it to show that the money's going to go to the Center Township trustee, because this says IOOF Cemetery, right? So technically, whoever owns Estates of Serenity now, are we giving them the money, right? So it's a technical. Well, I know we're not. I'm speaking to technicalities. I spoke with our council earlier, and I'm just making sure that if we pass this, we don't have to come back and fix it because of the language on there. So it was more of a rhetorical question, I would say. So make sure it just says it would go to the Center Township trustee upon proof of acquisition for costs of acquisition and grounds maintenance.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay. And then the other thing I would propose, like, I don't know how long it's going to take you, right? And I hope you're successful. But then also just making sure that there's a time limit on that at some point. I mean, we can't hold on to 300,000 forever, obviously. And we hope it doesn't take forever for you, for everybody in this room and all the families, all the 60 emails I received that I appreciate. But maybe attaching a time limit. So if we hit a time limit, that money then has to get reappropriated from the council. And then we can come back and reapprove that. So some kind of a time limit I would like to see, just to cover ourselves. I know at any point we can come back and reappropriate, but maybe putting a trigger on that. Councilman Klein?
States.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
sorry, I was gonna.
First of all, the cemetery's become an eyesore. It is one. Its sacred land has been desecrated. I hear a lot of what ifs and such as that, and my daughter's calling, I'm trying to turn her off. What about, I'm throwing this to you, Mr. President, tabling this so we get all these questions answered, ironed out, written down in a document, so we know precisely what we're voting on. Does it have a sunset? Where's the money go? How long does the money go there? Who can draw it down and when? There's a lot of questions I heard.
Yeah, we can do this. Yeah, we should do this. We need to know precisely what we're voting on.
Go ahead.
Mr. Klein, if I don't know this, and then I can't move forward. So I can't help you. I can't help you get those answers if I don't know that I'm gonna get funding. So the money will not be given to me until the cemetery is acquired. It'll be put in a non-reverting fund just for cemetery care. I am required by state statute to also report to financial governing agencies like State Board of Account and DLGF on a monthly basis on every account and every fund that I have. And that is a record that can be attained and provided to the city.
So, and I appreciate your comments on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Kane, but from what I'm hearing is that without any kind of financial support, basically you're going to be dead on arrival trying to acquire the cemetery. Am I correct?
Exactly.
So if you're able to go to the powers that be that can help you acquire this and say, I have this sitting here ready to go, that is going to help your cause. Am I correct?
It is. It's going to help my cause. And also upon acquisition of the cemetery, in the negotiating of the finances and the purchase, after the acquisition, I can also then go for grant money. I've already spoken with Community Foundation, but no one can do anything without it under my umbrella. If we delay this, then I'm gonna lose opportunity for some significant grant funds that are coming up.
It's no different. Let me kind of put this in simple terms. If you're gonna buy a house or buy a car, you go to the bank and you gotta get pre-approved before you can buy it. That's exactly what this is. We're asking for the pre-approval that we know that we're approved, that then we can move forward. It's no different than that.
My proposal is, I would like to take a vote on it today, because if the majority of the council votes no, then I don't want to waste any more of her time. But my proposal is to propose an amendment that shows, again, that changes it from IOOF cemetery to the Center Township trustee upon proof of acquisition costs and grounds maintenance, maybe with a 6-month hold on that. However, legally, our legal team could write that up. And even maybe go to as far as the mayor needs to sign off on each disbursement, if just for that extra checks to make sure that everything is going through. And then push it to a third reading, right? So I do believe there are reasons for a third reading. So that way, if we propose an amendment, then we can come back to the third reading and see the newly typed ordinance with that new language on there, and then take a final vote on that new language. Does that, I'm just looking for input from the rest of the council on that.
I agree.
Councilman Fordyce.
I think that I've got to agree with you and Mike. With the way that this appropriation ordinance is written, it is very vague, and it's very specific that it comes out of the general fund to the IOOF cemetery. So, I mean, you either have to resubmit a new appropriation ordinance with the specifications in it, because this is the way this was advertised, and you can't amend an advertised appropriation. That's the way it was advertised, so that's the way it's supposed to be distributed. So, and then that's number one. Number two, I will stand corrected that a portion of that is in the city. You're right. I agree with you. I stand corrected on that. I agree that it needs a lot of work. I agree with that also. And the third thing is, it is a privately owned corporation, and you don't have control of it. I do not see us spending money out of the general fund budget to send to the township trustees. Number one, I don't believe that we can do that. I have been told that you cannot take general fund money out and fund another government entity. So I think that Mike's right and you're right. There's a lot of legal ifs in here, and we can't move forward with this appropriation the way it's written without more specifications on it. I agree that it needs work. I've spoke with the owner. He agrees it needs work and needs help. But it is, as far as this appropriation ordinance, and legal can help me on this, Marty, that the way that this is written, the way that this was advertised, we should not move forward on this.
It can be amended without re-advertising. The advertising isn't necessary unless it was a rate change ordinance. And since that's not in play, we don't have to re-advertise. We just make a motion to adopt it with an amendment as President McKinley has set forth. But you're correct, it does need to be cleaned up.
And as far as taking the money out of the general fund, I was told that we could not take money out of that general fund and send it to the township trustee. Since it's a privately owned corporation and there is an owner on this corporation, she does not have control of it. So the way that this ordinance writes or reads is that we're giving it to the IOOF.
It's not true. It's not true. Under state statute 2023, cemeteries are totally different than anything else. State statute 2023-14, 2023-69, 2023-68, 2023-75 gives a township that cemetery lies. If that township is, or if the cemetery is not being cared for and done the way it's supposed to be, that she has every right to have it conveyed.
Well, can I interject here real quick?
The statute also allows the trustee to levy a township cemetery tax to create a fund for the maintenance of cemeteries under that chapter.
Correct. And I'm just saying legally, we should not move forward with this because she does not have control of it. Once she gets control of it or receivership of it through the state, then that's a different story.
Can you buy a house and move into it before you pay for it?
That's a whole different situation. You're buying out a private corporation or trying to take over a private corporation.
If you want to get real technical.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on. Order. Come on, guys. Listen, I think we're going down the wrong path here. Okay. We are not giving money to the IOOF cemetery. We are not giving money to the Center Township trustee unless she takes possession of it. So I hear what you're saying, Councilman Fordyce. What she does on the legal front is on her and the trustee's office. What we're looking at and what I proposed for the amendment was to vote on this amount contingent on the acquisition of the property. So if she doesn't acquire and that legal battle is not successful, that money stays in the city general fund and it goes nowhere. That is what we're proposing. So I just want to make sure that's what I'm proposing as the amendment. So Councilman Dave Kane, you haven't spoken yet.
And you are exactly right, Mr. McKinley. And I believe Councilman Cowgill has an amendment ready to go, where there's a lot of arguing here for absolutely no reason. Absolutely no reason. Now, I know Trustee Kane has worked on this so very hard. She's given her all into this, and I appreciate every one of you that's come out tonight. I appreciate you, Mrs. Kinsey, to telling your heartfelt story to me and Trustee Kane tonight, and our hearts goes out to you. That's difficult. That's a difficult situation, and no one should have to go through that.
And may I?
To correct what she said on Mr. Gary Lucas, that tried to say the guy at the Charles Mill Dam, and they did not make it in 1977.
Trustee Kane, go ahead.
In reference to not being able to transfer money out of a general fund to another a government agency, I have spoken with the financial director of State Board of Accounts and also DLGF, and there is no problem. And they are assisting me with the ordinance for the non-reverting fund. Thank you.
Okay, at some point, we do need to get to the public hearing. So if council members don't mind, we could get to the public hearing and then we can always have more discussion. I think it would be wise to open up the public hearing on this. I will say, and I appreciate Council or Vice President Calgill doing this. I understand most, if not all of you here to support it. Every single one of you has a right to speak tonight. But if you look around, we will be here till 4 a.m. if everyone you speaks tonight. So my request, and we're not bound by this, is that maybe just a handful of you speak. So that way we're not here until 4 a.m. And my iPad goes dead and the live feed cuts off. So he did ask for those that are in favor to raise their hand, but I do want to be fair. If anyone's here not in favor, to please raise their hand. Okay, so I just want to make sure both sides have an opportunity. Well, can we just have you come up to the public hearing? Would that be okay? Yeah, hold on one second here.
I'm Catherine White, Deputy Trustee for Center Township.
Oh, you're part of her. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're just, go.
I would just like to say that we have diligently done our homework. We know what we're doing. I was up at the cemetery earlier this spring, went through the mausoleum with Mr. Jeffrey. It was in shambles, stuff everywhere. And was over there the other day. I had to attend a funeral actually. So I walked around and there are these open window holes into the mausoleum, and magically the mausoleum's been cleaned up. But it's still padlocked shut, so no one can go in there and visit their loved ones. Something needs to be done. We get phone calls all the time because the cemetery is in the township, so they call the township trustee's office. And our hands are tied. We can't do anything. We can't help those people. So.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And just because I know there's less that are not in favor, if I could just ask those that are not in favor to come up first, because I know there's only a couple of you, and then maybe have a couple speak that are in favor for the council to hear both sides. And so I'll go and open the public hearing and remind that if you make your way up, to state your name, your address, your association, if you have one, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Brian Jeffrey. I am the president and the owner of the cemetery. I live at 7867 South 100 East, LaFountain, Indiana. And everybody seems to think that I don't care about that cemetery. I put hours upon hours upon hours out there. The funding is a problem. And if it's under the city, I could do a lot with that money. Other than that, you know, I have retained legal counsel, and any questions you have needs to be referred to him. His name is David Phelps, which he has contacted your attorney here that you have on file, and that's where you need to go.
All right, thank you for your time, and you are not in favor of this. Am I understanding that? Okay.
This is my
All
living,
right.
how I survive.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna just ask everybody in the audience, I know there's a lot of emotions here, to just we need to respect those that are at the microphone and allow people to speak. So I know this is a very emotional thing for a lot of you, and I appreciate all of you coming here and sharing that. So anybody else that was not in favor that wanted to make the microphone or speak? Okay, I'm going to just open it up to anyone else then, and maybe a handful. Mr. Persinger, if you want to make the microphone. And if you could just turn the microphone on, name, address, and you got 3 minutes.
Craig Persinger, 509 West Nelson. I was involved. First of all, IWF Cemetery does not exist. Estates of Serenity is a trade name. The cemetery is owned by Marion Cemetery Corporation, which I helped form 25 years ago with Neil Jeffrey, Brian's brother, who invested significant personal capital of his at the time to acquire that. Marion Cemetery Corporation was administratively dissolved 2 years ago. My friend Brian here is incorrect when he says he owns the cemetery. He does not own the cemetery. Marion Cemetery Corporation owns the cemetery. I think I commend Deb Kane. I've been involved peripherally. I don't represent anybody or anything. I'm just here to provide a little history and hope that the council and interested people can benefit from whatever involvement I've had. I commend Deb's efforts. The trustees' involvement, I think, is long overdue. Under Indiana law, you can have some sort of limited involvement where a township trustee supports maintenance efforts in a nonprofit corporation, or up to the point where the trustee can acquire the property in whole. Now, I don't represent the corporation anymore. I don't represent Brian anymore. I understand he's hired counsel and is taking efforts. But as of now, or at least as of a week ago, the corporation is dissolved, and a corporation that's dissolved has the ability to wind down its affairs, including concluding negotiations, paying claims for for overdue wages, things of that sort. But I think there is an opportunity for a quick and negotiate. This does not have to be a hostile situation. I think there's a good possibility that this could be included. In fact, if reasonable minds prevail here, there should be a negotiated settlement here. And I understand the emotion, but I also know what Neil and Brian have done. There just has been no money to run that cemetery for 30 years. There is a perpetual care fund. It churns out a princely $10,000 to $12,000 for maintenance, which, as you know, would hardly do a week's worth of maintenance. There's maintenance needs, and there's also rehabilitation needs. There's the daily maintenance and the rehabilitation needs. I don't know if Deb's obtained any price tags on that, but it's got to be enormous. So I'm not here to give legal advice, or I'm not here on behalf of any client or individual. I'm just here to try to let the council know some of my involvement over the years, and to encourage reasonable minds prevail and try to seek a negotiated settlement, which will acknowledge the trustees and Deb's efforts to take a much larger role, whether that's by acquisition or by some sort of negotiated agreement. It should be done that way. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Persinger. I just want to remind before anyone else comes up here, because I did get a lot of emails, and I did give Trustee Kane permission to have my email out there. Not like it's private anyways, but to put it out there. So I have received probably close to 60 emails, a lot of them very good, passionate emails and stories. I just wanted to just clarify, there was quite a few emails. I want to make sure people understand the city does not own this property. I got some emails saying that they approved or supported us conveying it. The city does not own this property. The city is not involved in any legal part of this. We do not have council involved in this. The city is just being asked to provide funding contingent on the trustee's office, which is separate from the city of Marion, if she were to be successful. But I just want that clarity that the city in no way whatsoever is part of any legal litigation for the takeover of this cemetery or attempted takeover, or however you want to describe it. And we are not voting tonight to convey any property because the city does not own the property. So just wanted to give clarity to that before anyone comes up and speaks. So welcome. You're welcome to come up to the microphone, state your name, address, and this is a unique situation. Maybe say if you have any relatives buried out there or your connection to the cemetery, and you have 3 minutes.
Sure. My name's Molly Headley. I'm from Frankton, Indiana. So I drove up here because I do have my in-laws buried there. My father-in-law lives in the county still and is at a memory care facility, Alzheimer's. all he can remember is he has an infant daughter there. So every week when I come and get him, that's where we go. I also happen to be a cemetery administrator. This, that, I understand the cost. You have to make it happen. You have perpetual care, and you are disgracing every person out there. If I have so many people, and my cemetery looks like her trustee cemeteries, that say out of grief and out of anger, what if it was your parent out there? Well, my parent is where I work. Is your parent where you work?
Well, ma'am,
Are they?
excuse me, one moment.
No.
Hold on one moment. Okay, I just want some clarity. I know this is very passionate. I applaud him for coming here today and knowing he's in a room full of people that are not happy. I just ask that we refrain from attacking
Oh, you don't
him.
want any direct questions.
Yeah, no
I
direct questions,
understand.
no attack. Just speak to the council.
I understand.
Okay.
Are you trying to take the cemetery away from him that is privately owned?
Well, this isn't a question answer. This is you to just state why you're supportive.
Okay,
And then,
I'm here
yes.
because I think it's disgusting. The cemetery, the disrespect of the hallowed ground in the baby land when I am 5'10" and the weeds are mid-thigh. That's where I go, to my father-in-law's baby. I'm also trying to pre-need my father-in-law's burial. And this may not be anything to anybody else, but I can't even get a call back for a second right of interment, which is, can somebody still be buried there? Why would he want to? Because his daughter is. Kudos to the family that suffered to take their loved one out of there. He deserved more. I wish everybody had that money. I am here because of these two ladies that I've met over the phone trying to bury people, and the families have canceled because of the deplorable. I love Marion. I grew up loving Marion. I expect more out of Marion. Your trustee's doing a hell of a job. I hope the city can help them.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, go ahead and make your way up. If you want to make your way up, again, name, your association, and maybe where you live, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm going to try to get through this. My name is April Roca. I'm 50 years old. I'm from Marion, Indiana. I'm a full-time first responder in this county. Correction, David Kinsey is the man that adopted me. Gary Wayne Hovis was my father. He was a Vietnam veteran. He came home from the war. He died at the Charles Mill Dam in 1977 trying to save another man's life. He was buried at IOOF, where he shouldn't have been. He was buried next to a tree that has grown ridiculous beside his grave. I've been telling my mother for years, since I was probably 15, he's not resting. It's always been a mess out there. They would pull up decorations from other graves and put them underneath the bushes that were by my dad's grave. My mom's been trying for years to have him move to the VA, which she finally was able to get me to do. He was exhumed almost 2 weeks ago. My mom and I were there for the whole process. They were not supposed to break ground until the morning of, so that my mom and I could be there. When we went out there, his grave was already dug up and had been sitting there all night, open and exposed. There were no caution tapes. There were no tents that were supposed to be there. There was supposed to be a tent that we paid for that was not there. So when my mom and I go out there and see this, you can imagine how we felt. In addition to him not being the kindest man that I've ever met. The tree roots, I know are under his control, had cracked the bottom of my dad's tombstone, or his tomb, which caused moisture to get in, that tore up his casket. He was cremated. He is now going to go to the VA. I got to be part of that whole process. However, he has gone from there, which makes me very happy. My grandfather and my uncle are still there, right beside where my dad was buried. He dug up my grandfather's headstone, and it is thrown against a tree by the road, still sitting there almost 2 weeks later. My uncle, his headstone is missing. You can walk out there right now, and the only thing you see is the tree and the tore up dirt, and there are no headstones. You would not know that my grandfather or my uncle were still buried there. And for me to walk out there, or for my mom to walk out there right now, we wouldn't be able to pinpoint where they were buried because there are no headstones. I don't know why 2 weeks later that this has not been taken care of.
All right, ma'am, your time is up, so I appreciate you.
We
Thank
need to
you.
get this man out of there and get this man
Okay,
taken care of.
guys, I just asked that everyone just please keep decorum in here. I understand there's a lot of emotion, and I recognize that. But we do need to keep, some respect and decorum. I know there's a lot of opinions, but for the sake of this council meeting, I ask that you just address the council directly. So go ahead and come on forward. Your name, association, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I am also here for the State of Serenity Cemetery. My name's Robert Mathias, 9547 West Delphi, Converse, Grant County. I'm here tonight regarding the cemetery. It has been a family cemetery for over 90 years for us. We have 25 members and 4 close friends there, and 6 unused grave plots. Maintenance and management has been a growing concern for many years for us. The roads have potholes, trees have fallen, mowers and possibly backhoes have pushed stones off the foundations, and they haven't been reset or repaired. The signage and the grave lot markers are down or missing. Grass is 10, 12 inches tall or more, many times during the summer. We have mowed our family's area several times. The beautiful mausoleum marble vaults have been vandalized, and the stained glass windows have been broken. And I assume this last caretaker, or possibly the last one, have worked with a disadvantage of reduced funds that we have heard the previous caretakers, I think during the 80s, had mismanaged funds. The 2 valuable cannons at the War Memorial were sold, and a large amount of wrought iron fencing was sold for scrap price that my father was told, and that's how I know this fact. That was back during that time of the 80s, I believe. This cemetery in the past has been a nice, well-maintained older cemetery, especially under the IOOF management. It has a lot of character with mature trees and landscaping. Also, many valuable artistic older stones. I have been told that some of the historical and famous people are buried there. In conclusion, we would like to see a federal or state grant of some sort, or state or some type of funding with an oversight type management to return this potentially beautiful cemetery back to its where it once was. And thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank
One
you.
question, is there future expansion to the south between the dog cemetery and that woods? Is that you guys? So you do have future, okay.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. We'll invite the next person up. Again, if you can state your name, your association, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is James R. Plummer Jr. My address is 1735 West 10th Street. The reason I'm here tonight, me and my wife, like yourself, sir, I don't know you. Years ago, I'll be 55 in October. Years ago, when the IOOF or States of Serenity, whatever you want to call it, that was my job, and that was one of the nicest cemeteries in Grant County. My job as a young boy was carrying the water and cleaning headstones, and like he said about respect. There is no respect at all. And that's all we can give our people that we've lost from the past. We talk about future, but what about the past? I mean, that's, to me, is just as important. Going forward, I don't want to forget the past. My father recently passed away in April. I've lost my mother, my father, pretty much my side of the family are buried out there. Me and my wife were out there Sunday, and we try to go. At one time when our kids were little, we'd go to the old Penguin Point, get food, put it in the truck, and head out there, and we'd make a day of it. We'd mow, me and my wife and the kids would mow anywhere from 20 to 25 to 30 graves, family members. And we were there Sunday, and I can't mow like that anymore. You know, and it's no disrespect to him. We have a relationship because my father just recently passed away, and everything I've asked him with my father, he took care of. I understand he has his hands completely full, and he only has a few people working for him, but this has gone on for way too long. Way too long. And like he said, it's total disrespect. I mean, that's all we have is respect, to try to have respect for people and our word. I mean, if you don't have that, what do you have? You know, it's not right. It's been going on. We have these cleanups out there every year. They put on Facebook or whatever about cleanup, show up, show up, show up. And then you do it and it goes right back to the way it was before. So, I mean, you're going to do that. You're just going over beating your head in the wall. You're not getting anything accomplished. You can go out there constantly and find something. And like I said, I'm not beating him up, but it's well before him and his brother, well before that. When my mom passed away in 2006, there was a problem from years ago of them, the management selling and reselling and reselling and reselling the same plot. So we had to find out when mom passed, who owns this? And we had to get all that taken care of. I mean, it's been going on for too long. Something needs to be done.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brittany and I'm a Marion resident. I come to you today and ask that you don't hear me speaking to you, but instead you hear the voices of the 35,992 individuals buried at Estates of Serenity whom I'm advocating for. Of those individuals, I hope you hear the voice of General Shunk, whom bravely served in 11 Civil War battles. I hope you hear the voice of Adeline Knoll, speech and drama teacher of James Dean. I want you to hear the voice of Colonel John McCullough, whom by all historical accounts was very philanthropic to the Marion community. I want you to hear the voice of J. Wood Wilson, whose wedding gift to his wife we now enjoy as the hostess house. I hope you hear the voice of Martin Boots, chief pioneer of Grant County. I want you to hear the voice of 21-year-old father Larry Goss, who died in Vietnam, leaving behind a daughter whom now serves as a state representative. I hope you hear the voices of those who are unknown due to double-selling plots and lack of record keeping. I hope you hear the voice of Raymond, Abraham, Lewis, and 27 of my other family members. We cannot sit here and say we are proud to be part of the Marion community when we can't even honor and take care of the dead who founded it. Nothing changes if nothing changes. We are hindering the grief and bereavement needs of the community. It is impossible to mourn when you have to mow a path just to locate your loved one's grave. It is impossible to show expressions of grief when your loved one is padlocked in a mausoleum because it's caving in due to a lack of perpetual care. I leave the cemetery more distressed than when I first arrived. It's not called rest in and amongst chaos. It's not called rest in pieces. It's called rest in peace. This cemetery is anything but serene or peaceful. Many of those buried at the Estates of Serenity died before the creation of death certificates or didn't make it into the census. These broken, crooked, dirty tombstones are the only proof that some of these people ever existed. I don't have a zero-turn mower. I don't have a chainsaw. I don't have $1 million. But the resources I do have are passion and love for my community, tenaciousness, and the spirit of my ancestors. Come hell or high water, I will get something done about the cemetery, but we as a community need your help and your resources. To quote George Eliot, our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them. Please, please don't forget to remember. I would like to leave you with a quote by William Gladstone. Show me the manner in which a nation or community cares for its dead, and I will measure with mathematical exactness the tender mercy of its people, their respect for the law of the land, and their loyalty to high ideals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome.
She did a great job. I'll be very brief. My name is Kimberly Jeffries. I actually am a Gas City, proud to be a Gas City resident now, but I'm from Northeast Marion and my parents lived in Northeast Marion all their life. When my mom passed, my parents gave away their plots at Gardens of Memory in Huntington because the tradition in the South is to have decoration day and be able to put flowers and decorate and do these things. My mom wanted to be moved. I had no idea what was happening when we bought that, and my dad buried his wife there. But I do know it wasn't as bad as now. But I do know that when my dad was buried there in 2020, we had to ask for a bush to be cut down so people standing around could see what was going on. My husband takes care of my parents' graves. Everyone doesn't have that. And I know people have mentioned money and that the current caretaker doesn't have all the funds he needs, and that may well be. But when the sign falls off on the ground that tells you the rules of the cemetery and when to come and when to go, you can't put a piece of plywood with a sign back up. This isn't just about what money's available. That's not the only thing. Things have gone wrong. Things have been bad. Things have not been as they should be. It is about money, but it's not just about money. And now I wish I wouldn't have had my parents go there, or we bought plots there at the same time. I was getting ready to look what it would cost to move them to, but I think that's hard for a family to decide. You can't just have the money. You can't give the current management the money, but families shouldn't have to be constantly taking care of their graves and other people's graves in the cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I am a resident here of Marion. My name is Derek Brown. I'm 41 years old, and this is the first time I've been down to do this, but my father is here with me tonight, Rick Brown, who we just buried my mother there about 2 years ago. My father goes over it, retired at 69 years old still to take care of my mother's grave. And when my dad is gone, God willing, and I'm alive, whether this is taken care of or not, I myself will continue to do that in honor of my parents, and I know many others will. To me, this is beyond thinking of what to say here. I felt like I needed to say something, but listening to everything and what was said this isn't a matter of someone's opinion. Everybody has a story about this. There's a lot of people here, obviously, that this touches closely. I think everyone knows this is a very hot subject for a lot of people, a very sensitive subject, and it should be. But I'm optimistic in the town that I live in. I chose to move back to Marion and become part of this community, a tax-paying citizen. And I'm optimistic that as the leaders and the work that she's done, I know I won't pretend to understand all the legalities that she has to go through to try to pull something like this together and actually make it happen. So I'm optimistic that there's a lot of good brains here and that we can unite on this subject and come together. Whatever Mr. Harker said about changing the wording, that it can at least be passed for now. The money can be allocated so she can go ahead and move ahead. Put whatever stipulations on that. That can be done tonight. Whatever stipulations it is, that money stays in the city fund until it's ready to move ahead. I'm optimistic that that can be done, that this team can unite the people that's our mayor and this board that's together right now serving this community and can make a difference that many people would enjoy and that is respecting our city. And I'm excited about all the new things here, but I am optimistic that we can take care of the things that's it's a right and wrong, and that we're gonna stand up and do what's right, and that I can still have faith in this community. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mary Pearson. My address is 517 West 6th Street, Jonesboro, Indiana. I also have several family members buried out there, and my brother, who's with me tonight, goes all the time and takes care of our family's graves. Every month, he's out there cleaning them, taking care of them. You know, it's been like this for several years. Thank you, Brian, for trying to get it taken care of. You seem to be the only one here for it, and I appreciate it. And it's something just needs to be done. It really does. I mean, those are our loved ones. To think that this lady had to bring her husband up from the ground to take him to a better place so she can pay her respects to him. You know, the tombstones knocked over, thrown in the ditches. It's just uncalled for. There needs to be water out there. There needs to be trash cans out there. You got the inmates at the Grant County Jail going around mowing properties. Take them out there. Let them mow some grass out there. Let them pull some weeds. You got 275 people locked up there, and I'm sure some of them can get out and push a lawnmower. I mean, this has just gone way too far. And I know it's not their problem. They're not in there to go mow the cemetery, but if you're gonna take them out to mow properties, why not take them out there? You want Marion to be beautiful? You think people drive by that cemetery and think Marion's beautiful? Looking at that, Marion may not own it, but Marion ought to want to make it look beautiful. You wanna build a great big apartment complex, let's fix our cemetery first. Do you guys have people buried out there? Do you go out there and see what this looks like? Do you have family members there, any of you? Probably not.
Emma, just give your opinion. This isn't a Q&A.
Well, that's my opinion. Get it fixed.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, go ahead, Councilman Kane.
I've got to respond at this point. Probably a lot of you don't know, I am the husband of Trustee Kane. So I have, the last several years, spent countless hours out there along with Deb mowing. We're to the point now, we can't help ourselves and we can't stop. We're mowing up to 650 headstones. And it's a lot, believe me, it's a lot of work. I'm sacrificing a lot of time from other things because I can't stand the eyesore when I go out there and look at it. It's deplorable. The list goes on and on and on. I had a wife that passed away in 2005. So I know we all have stories, but I have a story of back in 2005 when my wife passed away. I went out there and to see if I could bury her there. At the time, I was told, well, we don't know where anybody is buried. Our records got burned up in a fire. All we can do is dig down. If we hit bones, we hit bones. Whoa. So that's my story. They said, if we hit bones, we'll just put them in a box and we'll tuck them down underneath your wife and they won't say anything. So that's my story. I have at least 50 relatives buried out there. My great-great-grandfather from Virginia, Virginia is buried there. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my wife is buried there. When she passed away in 2005, Deb and I got married in 2006. So we spend countless hours out there, a lot of time, a lot of energy with our equipment, our gas, our time, our sweat. I know what everybody's feeling because I feel it. So this has to happen, guys. This has to happen. If we show enough respect in this city to take care of blight and tear down buildings, we have to show respect for our loved ones that are buried. So please consider this, consider Mr. Cowgill's amendment to the motion tonight, and let's get this passed so we can move, so Trustee Kane can move forward with her acquisition and discussions with Mr. Jeffries on taking care of this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Kane. I just want to remind, we still have the public hearing going on as well. I did want to let him interject because I just want to caution anyone that would speak at the public hearing to cast judgment on council members until they hear our full opinion and our vote. But the public hearing is still open. I don't see anyone else up coming to the mic. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at this point. And okay, we're going to let you slide in and then come on up.
Hi, my name is Deborah Powell. I live on Sherman Street. I have a mother, grandparents, a husband, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law. Some of you may have known my mother-in-law, Phyllis Powell. She worked for the Marion Police Department for over 20 years. I buried my husband up there in 2007. Neil Jeffries was over the cemetery then. He kept it pretty well taken care of until he moved to Garden of Memories, or Grant Memorial, I'm sorry. I am 71 years old. I bought me a little electric push mower. I go up there, I mow Tom Sutton's family's cemetery plots, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my husband's, and my mother and father-in-law's. I also have a sister-in-law who passed away 2 years ago this past January. Her grave was not leveled until they could put the headstone. They couldn't put the headstone until the grave was leveled. Finally, after a year and a half, they put a headstone up there because he got the grave leveled. There is no reason on God's green earth that our families should be laid to rest in a place where somebody does not care enough to take care of the graves. I understand money and finance may be a thing. Let's pull together and get what we need to get this cemetery taken care of. If I had the money to exhume my husband's body, I would take him to La Fountain, where I was born and raised, and have him buried over there. But because he is buried right next to his mother, I knew that that's where he wanted to be. I am fed up. I went up there this spring, right before Memorial Day. I could not find my mother and my grandparents' headstone because the weeds were up to my hip. There's no sense in that. And where's the National Historical Society in there? We have ancestors that have been buried there for decades and years. Where there has to be something to where they can step in and say, look, this is a National Historical Cemetery. I thank Deb for putting this over Facebook and bring it to everybody's attention. I have been, and I know some of you know Tom Sutton. He used to be a police officer here. He can't go up and mow. He has a missing leg. His mother is 96 years old. She can't go up there and take care of it.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up. I appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. We have one more. And again, I can't tell you you can't speak, but we appreciate you speaking. If nobody else would like to speak after that, that would be fine as well.
This is Denise, and I'm 5832 South 600 East, Wabash, Indiana. I have interest in it because that was my sister, who's 71 years old, that loads a lawnmower to go mow. My biggest question is, with listening to all of this, is number one, I do hope that everything is done legally, everybody put some thought into it. If it costs a lawyer for the city to make sure that everything is worded correctly, I applaud your efforts for that. But my other question is if someone's gonna retain a lawyer to try to keep something that he can't care for, why didn't he put that money toward finding money to care for the cemetery? Because there are appropriations out there for caring for historical landmarks. So be nice if he would look in that direction.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. I don't see anyone else coming to the microphone for the public hearing. So we're going to officially close the public hearing now. And I just want to thank everyone that spoke. I'm sure some of you probably still would like to speak because every one of you has a story. And we appreciate you sharing your story and your emotions. So yeah, we'll close the public hearing, and I would like to just kind of reopen it up for discussion with the council members. I'll tell you where I stand. I am, I don't know who said he looked like the only one. I don't know if I just don't look like I care, but I am in support of it. You're welcome. So I'm in support of it, but I just want to make sure that the language on this ordinance is appropriate and just kind of has protections for the city. And make sure that if this does not succeed, that the money still sits in the city account. So I am for this. I would like to make an amendment, but before we do any of that, I just want to open it up for any more discussion with council members.
If I may, I agree with you. I'd like to clean up the appropriation, but I'm also in favor of it. I have family members buried there, but I'd like to see the wording fixed so that we know we're legal.
I agree. I would like to see the wording fixed. I don't like the idea of doing it all in one night without time to really look at it and think about it.
So my other proposal, I said earlier, was to send this to a third reading as well. So, ultimately at the end of the day, if we clean it up and opinions change at the third reading, it could still get voted down. But my opinion is we vote on this with an amendment. I mean, there's no guarantee. I haven't heard enough yeses yet, informally. But if it were to pass, then move it on to a third reading so that we can see that language, have more time maybe to do some more homework if we need to, ask more legal questions if we need it, and bring it back for we'll call it the final third hearing vote. So any other council members? Councilman Fordyce.
Could all the council people get a copy of that amendment so we could see what's in it and how it's going to be structured?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We could vote on amending it, and then it would be on the third reading. It would be presented to us when the agenda gets released. So legal counsel would have to retype or with the amendment on there for us to see, and then come back at the third reading and discuss.
Re-advertise it then? If you're going to amend this, it's going to be different than the second reading public hearing.
No. I mean, legal counsel's telling me no.
Point of order.
Yes, go ahead.
Legal counsel also represents the Center Township trustee. Am I not correct? That to me is a pretty big conflict of interest, having it both ways. And shouldn't, just point of order.
Go ahead, Marty.
No, we have a different lawyer.
Turn your mic on.
Oh, sorry. No, we're retaining, I don't know if you want to say who yet, but we're retaining a different, Mr. Ark was not going to be the lawyer. Because I agree with you, that would be a conflict.
Who's the lawyer?
Ed Merchant.
Okay.
I appreciate bringing it up. Maybe I should have brought it up earlier. I did have that discussion with Marty ahead of time, and we did discuss about them. They're retaining their own legal.
That would have been
Yeah.
nice to know.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I should have said. Councilwoman Devine.
So one of my other questions that I had noted to myself here is we are in the middle of August. And if we do approve this through the third reading, that only buys a couple months before we head into the next budget. And how are we going to be handling that to roll it if there's to think about the rollover provision to continue to hold it or as an encumberment? Because we'd be then taking this up again in January because that money, that appropriation goes away at the end of the budget year. I just wanted to make sure that was out there too as we were talking amendments.
Yeah, and I concur that I do think there should be a time limit, whether it's by default or we set our own time limit, that if nothing happens by a certain date, whether it ends at the end of the year, then we can come back and look at it again. But I agree something should be in there.
I mean, because if we're all, if it is voted in favor, I would hate to have all that work done and then have to do it again come January. Because I know at this point, we cannot increase the budget that's been presented to us. So, for next year.
Mr. President,
Go ahead, Trustee Kane.
and in state statute for the budget, whether it's the city or the township, there is an encumbrance that you move over. So I don't have to come before you again in January because it would already be an encumbered bill or invoice or ordinance that you have approved. So it just rolls. There's nothing that has to be redone.
So I think this is great. So this is exactly why I think we need to go to a third reading or at least take a vote today and give it the opportunity to go to third reading if it does pass, because it gives us some time to clarify the language, maybe address some additional. This is where I think a third reading is appropriate. So, but I do appreciate.
And that comes from state statute and what I have to follow and what all government agencies have to follow. Thank you.
And I understand the encumbrance process. That's what I'm trying to make sure that this language includes that if we want it to continue until this process has gone through, to make sure that that is properly encumbered with this appropriation. Because your budget doesn't just automatically encumber. We have to do something to create that encumbrance, whether it be a contract with you that it holds, or it has to be something that shows that money is specifically allocated to something. And I don't know.
Like the non-reverting fund.
Right, and the way this language is in the ordinance is not going that direction yet. It's just sitting as an additional appropriation to the general. So that's why I want to make sure if we're approving this and amending it, that it's holding that for you. Otherwise, there was no point in approving the money. And I want to make sure that we use the money. You know, if we're going to use it to clean up, then that's what we need to use it for. And that it's there and available when it's ready. So I don't want any of those legality issues.
Thank you. Any other council members? Councilman Brunner.
This microphone's not working.
We can hear you, Jim.
You hear me?
Yeah.
I haven't spoken yet, and I think it's a point where Deb has done a lot of work on this, but it's obvious that the wording is just not going to do what we want it to do. But if we pass it to a third reading, it gives us 2 weeks. And I think Nick kind of talked about that, where we can spend the next 14 days getting this put to where we can at least vote on something we think and hope can work for all these people out here this evening. So let's do that right now, okay?
Thank you, Councilman Brunner. Appreciate that. Any other council members? Councilman Fordyce.
So do you have an amendment to attach to this appropriation ordinance for the clerk? Because we're not, if it's going to be amended, does the clerk have anything on it, or? Because I don't have anything. So are you just going to voice your amendment or read an amendment, or? Because if we pass it as this is, it's not correct.
Well, that's what we would vote on an amendment first. We've done,
Do we have a copy of the amendment?
I haven't made it yet, Gary.
well,
That's what I'm saying.
so we've done amendments in the past where we verbally state the amendment. And then I think it was even 2 meetings ago we did that.
Do we have the time for council to see the amendment, to make sure it's correct?
I have a point of order.
Go ahead.
So we have done this so many times over the years. Oh, my word, guys. Make the amendment, pass it to third reading and get on with it, guys.
So, yeah, we would vote to take an amendment. The ordinance would be rewritten with that amendment and dispersed back to the council for third reading. That's what we're discussing. That's what I would propose, is an amendment to change it from IOOF Cemetery to say Center Township Trustee upon proof of acquisition, cost and grounds maintenance. At the minimum, that's the amendment that I would like to see. And if we want to put a time restraint on that, 6 months, a year, I think that would be appropriate. And if we even want to go even further and say in that amendment that requires the mayor to sign off on each disbursement. So those are my thoughts. Those are my proposals. So if somebody would like to make an amendment or have more discussion, that'd be fine. But that's what I'm proposing. Make an amendment to clean up the language, which we have done in the past on other, and then come back third reading, which I think would be an appropriate use for a third reading if we're going to change the ordinance with an amendment. So
Are you ready for me to make
I
an
would
amendment?
entertain a motion for amendment.
Mr. President, I would like to propose that we have an amendment on, what number are we on here?
31.
31/2024, that the amendment would read that it is the States of Serenity Cemetery that Center Township Trustee's office is looking to acquire that. With that being said, that the money stays into the fund with the city, other than if they needed legal fees or whatever, that when it's conveyed to the Center Township Trustee's office, then the funds can be released. I would like to have a time limit of 6 months on this, which if it carries into the first of the year, it is incumbent into the first of the year at the end of the time frame we need to come back for this, then we can do it then. That's my amendment. I think it covers everything everybody said.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor. So I would say my opinion on that one. So you had said changing it to Estates of Serenity.
That's the name of it.
All right. My request, what's that? Yeah, that amendment should have the Center Township Trustee on that.
Oh, I
So
thought it said that, I'm sorry.
I don't know, did you? Okay.
No,
States
no,
of
I
Serenity.
said that the property of States of Serenity would, if after the Center Township Trustee's office, if it would be conveyed to them, then the funds would be released until then, at that time. But until then, it stays with the city unless
Okay,
it's
I see.
an accusation that they need out.
So the amendment that I hear is it will say, whereas the States of Serenity would be to conveyed to or have ownership
Trustee's office.
of the Center Township Trustee, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Council, is that?
I just want to clean
I'll
up
make sure I'm
that.
right on
Council,
this.
can you help clean that up a little bit? Just kind of, I just want to make sure this is properly put onto this ordinance. Do you have a recommendation?
Yes, just having it state that the Center Township Trustee would receive the funds upon proof of acquisition to be used for acquisition and maintenance costs. The funds can be held with the city until that occurs. and that the Center Township trustee is the receiving entity with regard to the estates of Serenity. And it will be reviewed within 6 months of it if the transaction is not proceeded.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I meant to say.
Sounds, all right. We'll accept that as the language for the amendment then.
And I'll have it typed up for the next meeting.
Okay, fantastic. So I have a motion for the amendment. Does anyone want to second that?
Second.
So I have a motion by Vice President Cago, second by Councilman Brunner. Any other discussion on the amendment? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
No.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
No, I can't.
Divine,
Aye.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Absolutely.
McKinley.
Yes. So the amendment is passed. I would entertain a motion to pass this to third reading.
I will now make the motion that this ordinance 31/2024 gets passed with the amendment onto third reading.
Motion by Councilman, or Vice President Calgill, second by Councilman Brunner. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
No.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
No.
Divine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Yes.
McKinley.
Yes. So appropriation ordinance 31-2024 has passed on to third reading as amended. All right. Again, I want to thank every one of you that's come tonight. I appreciate all of that. I would welcome you to stay. We do have one coming up, or a couple coming up that are going to public hearing, but I'm going to check the time. It is 9:09. And I would like, we just need some decorum here. I would like to take a 10-minute recess to allow restroom break, reset, come back at 9:20.
Are they really? Oh, okay. I gave it to me. He gave on a last run, so I just. Whatever candy was good. So, good stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking us. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right, we got to one. Then I know, right? On that amendment and all that, we need to get back through legal. We need to get.
You to send that
to me.
I'll copy everybody, don't worry.
Well, that's why I kept going into the clarity of it.
We got it recorded, so I need to.
Two different places. This
Good,
is
so,
recording.
it was what, about 9 o'clock minimum, so I'm on it. I'm ready to go.
We're still live on YouTube. We're coming back in 5 minutes. Okay. I'm not. Anyways, yeah, we appreciate it.
In most cases. It's a middle thing.
Special request.
Both of those stop working right in the middle of the meeting.
No, Nope. All right, another 30 seconds. If everyone could make their way back in, we'll get started here in about 30 seconds. I don't even know. All right, if everyone can make their way back. I don't know if mine's even turned on. All right, we'd like to resume the meeting. If everyone can make their way back, please. We still have quite a bit to go through. Okay. All right, I see the other council members coming in. I'm gonna give them a chance to walk back to their seat here. Wait for Councilman Klein. Come on back. We'll get this meeting resumed. Okay. One down, 7 to go. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to the additional appropriation ordinance 28-2024, second reading and public hearing.
An ordinance of the city of Marion, Indiana, appropriating the amount of $21,500 from the general fund to make my move. Speaking, Mayor Ronald Morrell Jr.
If this looks familiar, it's because it is. We talked about this probably a month or two ago. What happened was this was got lost in it. It's just an error. This got lost in a sauce of when we were putting out all of our public notices for the ARPA funds, and this one didn't get properly publicly advertised. to be able to pay for this. So this is just an error on my part and administration. So I apologize for that. But it's still the same thing. We owe Make My Move and the people. We need to get this paid.
And just for clarity for the audience, this is for when people would come to town and we would, I don't know, give them money if they stayed a certain amount of time, but it's a program that you have discontinued, correct?
Yes. This one, when I realized we couldn't afford to do it, we discontinued it.
Okay.
But that's what it was. You had to pay a fee to the company Make My Move, and then also when people move them in, you pay them $5,000 in installments.
Just want to make sure we had it out there for the public. Okay. Any council members have any questions for the mayor this time? Go ahead, turn your microphone on.
I can't remember. This is the last installment, right?
Yep, this is it. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other council members? Councilwoman Devine?
Just out of curiosity, how many people does this encompass?
I think the total amount successful, I don't want to quote this wrong, but I think there was 4 families that moved into the city of Marion from this program.
Just curious.
Anybody else? Great, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. So if you would like to speak on this again, you're welcome to make your way to the podium. Okay, wasn't sure if she was coming to the podium. I don't see anyone coming to the podium. So we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And if there's no other discussion with the mayor, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we suspend the rules on appropriation ordinance number 28, 2024.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules by Councilman Kane, second by Councilman Klein. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
No.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes, rules have been suspended. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass appropriation ordinance number 28, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kane to pass it, a second by Councilman Klein. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. Additional appropriation ordinance 28, 2024 has passed. Moving on to additional appropriation ordinance 30-2024, second reading and public hearing.
An ordinance of the city of Marion, Indiana, appropriating the amount of $500,000 from the general fund for alley maintenance. Speaking, Mayor Ronald Morrell Jr.
Yeah, so I'll kind of lean into this again. So I drive around the city as much as I can to try to see what's going on. And one of the things that was brought to my attention numerous times by citizens are the conditions of our alleys. So if you spend any time traveling down these alleys, you'll know that they're in dire need of attention. So I drove down quite a few of them. In the last council meeting, I put a picture that one alley's I dare not call it a pothole anymore. It's something else that's larger than that. Had the ability to swallow a whole Yukon. So we're in a situation now where we're having some issues. So I not to get my years too off, give or take a year or two on each end, but it's been about 30 years since the city has any intentional focus on what we're going to do with our alley. So at the last council meeting, we proposed 3 different options, and I think I listed them as like I think Bentley, Cadillac, and Chevrolet. And after we went through those options, you guys voted that you want to go with option 1, which option 1 was to grade the necessary alleys down and then redo them with gravel. So then I think that's. Anything else? Yeah, anything else you want to add? Yeah, I think that pretty much encompasses that. So yeah, well, if any questions that I can answer. Or any also our engineer, so I still don't have a name for him yet, but I'll just call him Engineer Mike today, I guess. Answer any questions as well. But I think the reason why that we had kind of got landed on the gravel selection from an administrative perspective was because of a few things. One being the cost to implement the execution of the alleys. Two, the cost of maintenance, and three, the ability to maintain it with in-house on ourselves with our manpower in our street department. He was here in our street department. So yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, again, there was a question about life expectancy on certain materials. Alleys are very difficult to ascertain real good life expectancy because it's different. It's the way it's driven differently. So that to the best of my knowledge, I try to give you a good representation of what I thought longevity might be. But one thing about the stone is if we can put some stone in it when it starts failing or getting potholes, stone will last forever. Asphalt does have a life cycle, no matter if it's 10 years or 20 years, someone down the line from us will be maintaining asphalt. I do recognize and have recognized there are brick. We're not going to take up any brick. We don't have that in the plan to take up any brick. And if there are decent alleys there that we can keep up with a little bit of maintenance, we're going to keep those. We're just not going to full blown, just because it's an alley, take the asphalt off. That's just needlessly spending finances that we don't need to be. And then we do understand that there are going to be alleys that are so far gone that we're going to have to dig down deeper, put in more material, and those will be just taken care of on a case-by-case basis. So when I looked at the total numbers of alleys, that is the total number. So that with our request, and even with the next one that'll come later, you're going to have some that is going to take more work and some that won't. So hopefully that offset will be taken care of within that number. So, any questions? I'd be glad to help.
Any council members?
Can you say what you said again about the asphalt? Sorry.
As far as the longevity of it.
No, you're not gonna remove any
So
asphalt?
yeah, so if there are decent alleys that are there that don't have numerous potholes and have a good life expectancy still in those, I don't plan on removing that asphalt until it's deemed necessary. I just think that just to remove asphalt because it's an alley is a needless expense.
So if the asphalt's good, you're leaving it, but if it's already failing and in poor condition, you're gonna mill that off?
Correct.
Okay.
Councilmember Runner?
I take it, Mr. Engineer, that there are some alleys that go beyond one block. And I think I've heard some of them where the first block you drive, it seems like, well, this is okay. And then the next block is really a mess.
Right.
Is that
correct? Yeah. So as you've driven them, so have I. And yes, there are that state of disrepair is in some, but not in all. So you could have half of an alley that might be in pretty decent shape. So we'll just play those by ear. There are a couple streets that, because of the dramatic slope, let's say White Street or 2nd Street or anything that has a dramatic slope, we may have to look at putting asphalt in that, because the stone will never, as the rains come and the water pours down, we'll be constantly putting stone in. So we'll have to play a little bit of that by ear as well.
Is this something you can get done for all the alleys by the time the snow flies?
No, sir. No.
No? Okay.
No, but the good thing about it is we're not relying on an asphalt plant that typically would close in November. We can go into the winter months if the conditions are nice, remove that asphalt. Stone is available all year round. So
Give me a rough estimate. What percentage are just ones you're gonna put asphalt on, and what percentage are stone?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you. I don't have that number. It's until you fund it, I don't want to say, once you pay me, I'll go look at it, but just by the sheer numbers of inquiries we get on a daily basis, I'm going to say I'll probably replace 85% and probably 15% that may be either brick or decent alleys.
Thank you.
Any other council members before I speak? Great. I wasn't here at the last council meeting. Mayor knows where I stand on this, but I'm adamantly against replacing asphalt alleyways with rock. I don't believe we've done enough due diligence on this at this point. I had a meeting with Utilities Director Robin last week, just a discussion about how the city can also partnership and get more funding, et cetera. It was kind of a caveat of a conversation I had with the mayor. He's familiar with it. And, you know, I discussed the proposal of rocks and alleyways, and there is some concern from utilities. They said that they have not been a part of conversations when it comes to alleys. They have trash trucks that go up and down these alleyways constantly. I didn't know this until she told me, because I rely on an alleyway. I live off of an alleyway. My trash gets picked up on an alleyway. That in the wintertime, the utilities actually plows the alleys that where their trash trucks go. I thought it was the city maintenance doing it, but the utilities plows it to allow their trash trucks to go down. And she expressed concern with plows and rock and issues that would come from that. Also, you know, I heard the argument that this would help with drainage. Okay, well, the water is going to drain through the rock, get underneath the rock, and then soften whatever's underneath it, then thus creating potholes. I grew up where I grew up. My driveway in my house was right off of an alleyway. It was in the town of Winona Lake, and I grew up on a gravel alleyway. It was horrible. We're constantly trying. The city was constantly putting rock in. Couldn't ride my bike down it half the time. And I understand that we have some asphalt alleys that are the same situation right now, but they were constantly out there. Our alley didn't get plowed because of it. And then my sophomore year of high school, the town went through and paved all the rock alleyways, and it made a huge difference. Our cars didn't get dirty pulling out of our driveway. We didn't have to worry about rocks being kicked up into the yard, because previously when they would put rock down, some would always end up in our yard. But just the quality of life, you know, we discuss excellence in this city. And I'm very passionate about this. I believe going back to rock is a step backwards when it comes to excellence, but I understand that there's a cost associated with it. Asphalt does cost more. I commend the mayor for addressing this, so I'm not criticizing any of that. I know he wanted our opinion on it, thus I'm giving mine. I do think we need to address these, but my opinion is every alley is a different situation, is a different story, has a different need. I did get let me get to my alley maintenance here. So I had Robin at Utilities send this. She also sent it to the mayor this week, showing all the routes on the screen here for the utilities, trash trucks. There's all throughout the city. All of these lines are trash routes. Some of them are on the streets, some of them are in the alleys. But again, I just think there needs to be a further discussion about which alley gets what. Some of these alleys could just be resurfaced, in my opinion. I went around, just spent 10 minutes and looked at some alleyways. So this was a rock alleyway in Marion, or maybe it used to be asphalt, I don't know, but it's rock now. So that's what our rock alleyways are going to look like, unless they're traveled on every day, all day. That doesn't look as appealing to me versus, you know, 31st and Cary. that alley looks pretty good. And I know we're not gonna tear up good alleys, or I would hope we wouldn't. But I would rather us resurface that, maybe for a little extra to last a lot longer than to go back and have my alley look like this. The other issue on alley maintenance, and again, another mayor's on board with this, and it's a manpower thing, but we got a bigger problem than just our asphalt. At 21st and Florence, this alley looks in good shape to drive, but I'm not gonna make it through because we have so much overgrown brush. In fact, the utilities director said that's almost a bigger problem than the condition of the actual asphalt in the alleys, is you can't get down. The alley I drive down to get to my house, I navigate around more tree limbs than I do spots in the asphalt, because I don't want streaks and scratches down my truck. So I just think I'm for funding alley maintenance. I just want something just more comprehensive. I think we need to spend more time and figure this out. There's Adams and 14th. My other pushback is, so as these alleys start to get in bad condition, we're saying we're going to replace them in rock. But if we go downtown Marion, right, we're building this nice, we aren't, but we're supporting that construction of the apartments or any of the businesses downtown. So when those alleys downtown behind all of these businesses get in bad condition, we're going to put rock. There's so many asphalt driveways or asphalt parking lots of these businesses downtown and even around the city that connect to asphalt alleyways. But especially downtown, I just can't imagine driving downtown and all of a sudden now we have rock and then it just separates out the driveways. And I just don't think it looks good. I'm not so much convinced on the maintenance of it. I'm gonna be trying to think how I want to say this. So our alleys have been neglected for a long, long time. To nobody's particular fault. Funding has always been an issue. I get it. Manpower is an issue. But whatever the issue was, we are now saying we can go ahead and keep up with all of the alleys. I'm not sold on that at this point. Like if we couldn't fill potholes before, how are we going to continue to fill potholes with rock? Maybe the city should look at, we should put out hot asphalt, or maybe we develop a plan of 10, 15, 20-year plan on alley replacements. My purpose of this is really just to push and say, I think we just need more strategy. No different than our roads. We just don't do a one size fit all, or we're not going to replace roads with gravel. And to that point, some of us that live off an alley, our alleys are our roads. They are our primary access point to our house. So if you lived off of a road and I tore it up and just put rock, you probably wouldn't be very happy. Especially if you went to the car wash and then you throw up dirt on your car. There's many of us that live in Marion that our primary access to our home is an alleyway. And so I am not for rock. I think there just needs to be more conversation with utilities, code enforcement. I know they're strapped with, they don't have enough help, but how do we eliminate these weeds in the alleys? If we go to rock, you think our weeds and brush are overgrown now, let's put rock in the alleys and see how much grows through that on the edges and middle. And they're going to become even harder to navigate. And let alone, I really believe in the mayor's vision of excellence in this city, and I commend him for coming to us and giving us these options, right? He didn't come and say, I think we should just do rock. Let's look at these options. But my opinion is, and I'll rest on this, is I don't think there should be an option 1 or 2 or 3. I think every alley, just like any road, needs its own specific attention. Some alleys might need milled down all the way 8 inches and started fresh up. But if they're done right, and we put a little money in now, it might save us more later, right? Quality over quantity, because in 10, 15, 20 years, I think we're going to be sitting back here, if anyone's left on the council, probably talking about the same issues when it comes to rock. So that's my opinion. I can speak longer on it, but I know we have a long meeting. So I'm open to anyone else's opinion. I would say I would be for this 500,000 if I had a commitment that we aren't going to replace anything with rock that is not currently rock, especially without some kind of a plan or analysis on which alleys need to be addressed first. So I'll leave it at that. If anyone has anything else they want to share or add. I do have a question for you, Mayor. So, so if this were to pass the 500,000, I will say, because we do have under new business 600,000 for first reading to add on to the alley maintenance. That's $1.1 million. So I believe, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, that $1.1 million, how much, based on the rock proposal, why 1.1 million and how many alleys do you plan on doing with that?
Let's see here. So with the option one to do the 463 alleys, the quote would be $1.125 million. And out of all the alleys we have, as Engineer Mike was saying, all of them won't need attention. Some of them may need more attention than others. So that $1.1 million allotment will allow us the space to be able to do alley specific needs. So that's what that total ask is for. And I mean, if we remember the last council meeting, the reason why I went ahead and asked for the extra 600,000 was because it was like a general consensus that we should just go ahead and do all of the alleys. So my original proposal was only for $500,000, but from what we got from the last council meeting, unofficially everyone said that we should just ask for the whole amount.
Okay, so that's kind of goes back to, so the premise then, if we do the 500,000 to the 600,000 for the 1.1, is basically you're saying we're going to do option one. And so that's where I just want some clarity, like, okay, if the consensus is we're going to do all this rock, because that was the proposal, every alley for 1.1 million in rock, but then I'm being told that we're not going to do that. This is where there's a gray area, there's some confusion. If we appropriated 1.1 million, what exactly is the plan with that?
Right. So with the $1.1 million appropriation, that would allow for the administration to go out and use our staff members to make the executive decision on what alleys get what from a executive branch of government standpoint. So the money that we're asking for is just the allotment to be able to do alley maintenance and address this age-old issue that we've unfortunately inherited. So that's all the ask is for.
Okay, so I appreciate that. I'll stop there. Any other council members? All right, we're going to go and open it up for public hearing. So if you would like to speak on this, you can make your way up to the microphone, name, address, and you have 3 minutes.
Jeremy Moore, I'm at 3745 North Pembroke Drive. I serve at the Grant County Rescue Mission, which is right downtown. It's catty corner to where Firehouse 1 is going to be rebuilt. The alleyways, everyone's talked about, like houses and access to houses. There's a lot of alleyways that are affecting businesses, and those alleyways are used for offloading things. At the Rescue Mission, for example, food donations, things like that come in. We have that alleyway. If that was to be turned into gravel for some reason at the point where it needs maintenance, which it kind of does, all of a sudden we're trying to offload things, large loads, pallet size loads that we get into gravel. That becomes very difficult to move, and it also becomes a walking and tripping hazard for many people that stay with us, have physical needs and physical problems. I think asphalting the alleyways, especially in the downtown area where you're going to have businesses that are using those, becomes very, very important. And I can't imagine putting up a new fire station and then having gravel alleyways surrounding it as you're trying to deal with the fire trucks moving and heavy loads. So I think there should be consideration that you can't one size fit all with gravel. You need to think about the areas where they're at. what is needed. I appreciate and applaud the efforts. It's 100% needed. But I don't think we should pass this at this time until we think a little bit more about what is going to be done with that money. How are these streets going to be done? Because that looks a lot like where our warehouse is at. And we have semis that come and take bales as we get donations. Gravel's not going to be very conducive to semis. So please consider thinking about this a little bit more about what the plan is. Please give them the money to do the work, but let's make sure that there's a good plan in place for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome.
Hello. Okay, my name's Robin Pattison, and I live at 1012 West 10th Street here in Marion. And I have lived there for 17 years. And used to, the trash truck did come down our alley, and that may be what ruined our alley. I don't know. But I do know this, for many years, and for a couple of years, I've talked to Brian about this on several occasions of trying to get something done with my alley. And my alley is paved, but it has a lot of potholes. And now we're having to, like you said, and I'm so glad you brought this up, the foliage that these people are not keeping their houses up, and it's all into the alley. So that forces cars to, go off the road into other people's yards, and it's making potholes. We've got potholes all through there. I've had to replace my control arms on my truck. I have a camper that I have back there that I try to get down the alley. I've already lost on my old camper. I lost a antenna off the side of it because it got caught in the brush going down through the alley. Now when I go down there, it wraps around the top of my air conditioner. It's a constant, and my alley is only a block long. It's not even that long, so it's been something that's been a constant for years now. And I don't know how many times we've complained about all the foliage over the alley. And on a few occasions, we had the inmates actually get to come down and clear that out. But the problem with that is, how come the homeowners aren't being fined for that? I mean, the homeowners ought to be taking care of their property. I've got one right next door to me that's got, I don't know, he just got rid of 11 lawnmowers yesterday. And I don't know how many bicycles he's got over there. He's got a yard sale almost every day. He's got junk. He's collects scrap. And I am so glad that that was probably the best decision I ever made, to put a privacy fence up on that property, because it's a rental, and the people that live there, their daughter used to live there, but he's a junk man and he'd always bring his junk there, and it's just making it worse. And it's gonna breed, if it hasn't already, it's gonna breed, mice and cockroaches. And I'm just not about it. I'm not about living in cockroaches, so. And if you go down the alley, on the left side of the alley, where all the brush is hanging over, there's 2 more yards in the same situation. Why aren't these people being fined for their yards? I know there's got to be codes to this. And when I go down that alley and I make a left onto 9th Street, I'm pretty sure it's a code enforcement car that's parked right there, that lives right there. I'm almost positive it's and I'm thinking, if you live in this neighborhood, you got to see this,
Thank you.
so.
The time is up, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing is still open. Anyone is welcome to make their way to the microphone.
Hi, Tammy Filburn, 2316 South Florence Street. I like the idea of getting the alleys fixed. My alley is on a hill, so gravel is not going to work there. It has to slope, but it's also overgrown. One side is actually a city-owned property that is overgrown, and it's on the other side. I'm not sure what property owner is there, but I have both issues. It's mud. It has not been paved. It's lopsided, and so I don't know what can be done, but I applaud the mayor for taking these movements towards the alleys, and whatever we can do to get alleys taken care of, one way or the other, some kind of consensus. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Can I say, my alley is paved and I would not like for it to be gravel.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Not seeing anyone else come to the podium, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Councilman Brunner.
Real quickly, because I'm looking at, one appropriation ordinance for 600,000 and one for 500,000, are we voting on both of those at the same time?
No, this is just for the 500,000 public hearing, and under new business, we'll be talking about the 600,000.
Thank you, sir.
But the purpose of the 600,000 was because at the last meeting, the consensus was let's just do them all in rock, and the rock proposal was 1.1 million.
Gotcha. Thank you.
If I may really quickly, I don't want to be misconstrued that I don't want all paved alleys. I think that's not what I'm saying here. Of course I want all. It's like would I rather have a piece of steak or a piece of spam? Of course I want steak. Yeah, I think it's just after consulting with our engineer and our team is, I mean, I don't know if the public has all the information regarding the cost of these. So to pave the alleys in Marion, we're looking at $9.285 million. Versus rock maintenance, what we talked about right now. So I do think I'm very much agreeing with Council President McKinley that 100% I want the alley to be paved. I think now we just have to make a choice of what as a city can we afford to do.
Can I ask you a question? Do you know in the previous year's budget, of, and maybe Mike could address this, was there anything ever allocated for alley maintenance? No, sir. Which is what I thought. That's why I'm saying I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I know it's a funding thing, sometimes a manpower. I commend you for coming to us. I just want to make sure we're just taking the right steps. So in 5-10 years, we're not readdressing this.
And then one more thing about the utilities. You know, utilities been driving these alleys for 30, 40 years, and they never tried to do anything. So now all of a sudden, like they act like they care. It's interesting. And also, she did respond to our email, so they don't have the funds to participate.
Right.
At the moment. Yeah.
So just for transparency, there were some emails back and forth with Robin Utilities. Part of that was about, so basically the conversation I had with Robin was they are willing and able, when they're financially able, to help contribute to alley maintenance where their trash trucks go up and down the alleys. So as of right now, they can't because, well, they have some financial issues, hence our rate increase that we approved. They have to pay back a loan, but their goal is to become financially healthy again, get those loans paid back. And once they're in that situation, Robin from Utilities said absolutely they would love to sit down and talk to the city and partner to discuss how the utilities can help contribute to alley maintenance. Because she and Robin, she's new executive director, right? So she maybe has some fresh ideas, just like we have a fresh mayor with fresh ideas. That the foliage was a huge issue for them, for trash trucks. Of course, potholes is as well. But again, it goes to, I think down the road, once they're financially able, I think they would prefer alleys to be paved, and I think they would consider helping maintaining those. The other question I have, maybe it's for Mike, if we have a pothole in an alleyway, what do we outsource that, Mike, or do we do that in-house? And I know that's cold versus hot asphalt. What does that look like?
We outsource.
And what does it cost to send? Do we have one company we use, or
we pay by the ton that's placed?
So like we need to fill one pothole, what does it cost the city for that? For like a alleyway?
Depending on the size.
Yeah.
Some potholes are an inch and a half, some are 6 inches. So it's just, it's by the tonnage. So if they go and purchase 5 tons, we pay for the 5 tons that they use to place.
So do you know like expected cost for a ton? Like what do we pay for a ton?
You pay right now about $104 per ton of asphalt, and then you pay for the labor to place that.
Okay. if we were to approve this, could this money be used to go and fill potholes in these asphalt alleys? And I know it's a patch, but at least get us through for a decent amount of time.
I wouldn't say that unless he told me to. Because that's
Okay.
not what
I'm just saying, is it physically, I mean, we have the abilities if we outsource.
If you give me money, I'll spend it however you'd like me to.
I figured that. I'm just, again, trying to think outside the box here. Yeah. Councilman Fordyce.
Yeah, can I address that for Mike? Because watching the bills when, the city has potholes filled on the street through outsourcing through Donnie Scott, it normally runs basically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because he charges for 2 to 3 men, the truck plus the asphalt. It normally runs $800 a day is what he charges to fill potholes. That's what I've seen on the billing.
For the labor?
When I'm billing and asphalt and
Okay.
truck and labor.
Okay.
It normally runs about $800 a day, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but with the bills that, what he submitted on Donnie's bills for filling potholes, it's usually about $800 a day with the truck and the.
Correct. On a week, you probably get bills, if you look at them, we're anywhere between $2,500 to $3,000 is what if he's obviously the weather dependent, but if he's out there every day, which he's not out there every day, but that's a typical. You're right.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Gary, is that like for an 8-hour day, that kind of money?
Yeah, normally, I don't know if they get a full 8 hours with lunch and everything, so, but yeah, normally their work day is 2 guys, sometimes 3, depends, normally 2 guys, and he charges for the truck, he charges for the labor, he charges for the asphalt. And if you break it down, it runs, like Mike said, $2,500 a week or something. If he's got a list and they provide a list to him, it breaks down to about $800 a day.
Councilman Kane, did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to say probably back in the late 80s, I think everything was stone alleyways. Under the Ron Mowry administration, Mr. Mowry was getting a lot of pressure from homeowners and so forth. And like you said, they didn't like the dust on their cars. They didn't like driving down alleyways. I don't know whether I'm in favor of going all pavement, because I don't think the city can afford $10 million. I don't know how you spread that out over the years. Stone is a lot cheaper, but you're going to have a lot of fallout from that also. But you also have to remember that the mayor's not always going to be here. And what priorities does the next mayor have on keeping upkeep to the alleys? So if you have some mayors like we've had in the past, alleys are not even on their radar. And so they fall into disrepair. And here we are today, and we've got alleyways all over the city that are paved alleys that are in disrepair with full of potholes. We've got stone alleyways that are that certainly need stone, but you just can't lay stone on top of stone, can you, Mike? I mean, you have to go in and knife that up to create a new base, or that new stone is just going to roll right out of those potholes. So there's a lot of work on both, but wow, when you look at a $10 million price tag for paving all the alleys, I don't think we can afford that either. So I think we go back to what you said, President McKinley, that we need to probably pick and choose on how we move forward with each alleyway.
And I appreciate
my thoughts, but for what they're worth, I didn't come with any conclusion there, but just some thoughts.
And I appreciate that. I just wanted to have this discussion because I just didn't want us to just say, yes, let's just go ahead and do all rock, because I just didn't think it was appropriate. I mean, I don't think we need to spend $10 million I just think we need to spend money on the alleys that truly need the work, right? Like 31st and Cary, let's not touch that one. It doesn't need touched. If we need to, out of this money, can we give Mike permission to go ahead and fill potholes? I mean, some alleys there is, I mean, I walk down them sometimes. Some alleys just need a pothole filled. That's it. And if we fill it sooner, especially with this app, I've already reported a couple potholes in the app myself. If we can address those sooner, it prevents them from getting bigger, right? If we can fill them sooner, they don't fill with water, they don't disintegrate. Give Mike the resources through this funding to address potholes. And if there's an alley that has 1 or 2 potholes, I don't want us just to go, well, we're just going to clear it out and put rock in it, because we're going to be back in a couple years and addressing it anyways. And to your point, in the future, if there's a different mayor, neglect is neglect. So if we had rock alleyways, they're going to be neglected no different than if the mayor neglected any other type of alleyway. So I would hate to see rock being neglected, and then it's just going to snowball. But we're dealing with what we have. We have a mayor that's willing to address it, and our hope is our constituents hold us and the mayor accountable for excellence and quality within the city. So that's my opinion. I don't know. I guess maybe if there's other consensus, we're not necessarily voting on what type of alley we're doing, but I know that was consensus why he came back with the 600,000. Councilman.
I gotta admit, I was in favor of the rock, because I thought, man, if we can fix everybody's alleys, then that would be great, everybody'd be happy. Not realizing a lot of people now that would affect are saying, we don't want rock. So I think I'm in favor of giving Mike the money. What kind of a study are you think we needed? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, this is above my head. I'm not the expert like Mike. I'm just saying that
nobody likes
some, I know, right? The engineer title, Mike. I'm just saying that I think certain alleys need attention more than others. I did propose to the mayor that, maybe you can label an alley. This is a tier 1 alley. A tier 1 alley is an alley that trash trucks go up and down and is a primary access point to a home. It basically is a road to that person that lives there. It is their road. It may not have a name on it, but it is their road. That would say a tier 1. A tier 2 is maybe it's traversed every day. People access their garage that way. But maybe trash trucks don't go down. And tier 3 are alleys that just maybe one person drives down a week. You can label all you want, but just if you don't have a mayor that doesn't address it, who cares what it's labeled? We have a mayor that wants to address it. We have a Mike that's more than willing to, I think, go along and fix these alleys up. I commend the thought of redoing all of them, but all I'm asking for my vote is a commitment that every alley is assessed, and truthfully, unless an alley is already rock, that we don't tear up an alley and replace it with rock. That's my ask.
I don't mind getting in the game of picking winners and losers, but that's what we'll be doing. Is even some people who talk tonight, they're not tier 1 alleys. They're in the back row. So that means you have to tell. Well, I guess we'll have to tell them people that, hey, your alleys, you're the one that's a tier 3. You're only getting rock, while the ones in the downtown where we're spending all this money are the nice ones, and we're going to put lights and stamp concrete and all that cool stuff down here. So then, now again, this is just my observation. When they did it the first time, I think Mayor Mowry might have paved the north side of town, but all the south side is rocks. So I don't mind getting in the game of picking winners and losers, but that's what we'll be doing.
Right, and I'm not saying tier 3 would be rock. I'm saying I don't want any to revert back to rock. But I think our population, our citizens understand what we're dealing with. It's no different than our roads. We pick our roads every year, and we can't pick everybody, right? And Mike knows there's a couple roads I've addressed. I'm like, this one really needs paved. It just hasn't hit the list yet. And I think just if our citizens see that there's effort being put in, and they know that every year we're going to attribute some money to alley maintenance, I think our citizens will be more patient, understanding, and fill potholes, right? If there's a pothole, let's fill it. Let's not let it go. So I'm just for the asphalt. I don't want to go backwards. So I don't want to continue this one. Anyone else have anything else?
Jim and I don't even have alleys. What are we supposed to do?
Well, okay, now that you bring it up,
I'm just kidding.
all right.
But anyway.
I wasn't gonna say this.
We just have to keep this in mind that if we do pave an alley, and Mike, I think, addressed this at the last meeting, that if we do pave an alley, that we have to pay very close attention to elevations, to where we don't create water dams that are running into garages or people's homes and creating a flooding a problem. So we have to be real careful when we approach and want to pave a new alley.
I agree, and since you brought it up, I wasn't gonna say it, but I don't know who else, but I might be the only council member that primarily uses an alley to get to my home, so maybe that's why I'm the most passionate about it. But I know there's other people in my shoes. And real quick, I was asked, Michelle Doyle sent me an email and asked me to share it, because she had heard about the rock alleys, and she said, I'm not in favor of this, and neither are any of the Euclid neighbors I've spoken with. She's just went on about how there's more problems. There could be more problems with the gravel. Additionally, when rocks could end up out in the road, people on bikes and motorcycles, it could be harder to navigate with those rocks. The rock could be out in the road. There's all sorts of things that could happen. But I did get an email from her that she was in opposition of that, and a lot of her neighbors, and also Kevin Plank as well, who runs a business in town that expressed this, did not want rock. So anyways, I'll leave it there. Any other council members? Okay, so without that, I would ask for a motion.
Paul's coming. This lady's raised her hands 10 times. Nobody pays attention to what's going on.
Are you here?
Yes.
Okay, excuse me, there is some decorum in this meeting.
Pardon me?
This public hearing is not open right now.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, the public hearing was closed, and I'm sorry, I did not see your hand, but I was discussing, but the public hearing was already closed.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why we are accomplishing so much. You know?
Okay, thank you. We will ask for you to have a seat. The public hearing is closed. The public hearing is closed. The public hearing, listen, excuse me, sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave if you can't sit down. The public hearing is closed. I did not see her hand. I apologize. I have done that. I have been discussing with fellow council members, and it was not intentionally to ignore her. Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we, this is our second reading now. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on appropriation ordinance 30/2024.
Motion to suspend the rules on appropriation 30-2024.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Kane. Any discussion? No discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
No.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
No.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Can you give me the current vote?
6-2.
So I'm going to vote yes, but just pleading that we just don't go across and change all these with rock. That suspends the rules, so I'll entertain another motion.
I'll make a motion now that we pass appropriation ordinance 30/2024.
Second.
Motion by Vice President Cowgill, second by Councilman Kane. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein, Divine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes, appropriation ordinance 30-2024 has passed. Moving on to general ordinance 11-2024, second reading and public hearing.
An ordinance amending and restating, amending ordinance 5-2023, 6-2013, and adopting rule 31.46. Speaking, Council President Nick McKinley.
Thank you. This is the second reading, and just to restate before we go to public hearing, this is a change in rules for the council. We did send this to a committee, Rules Committee. I appreciate Councilman Kane. He's the chair of that committee and helping us through this. But I had originally proposed, Marty had worked with us as well, our council, to just kind of tweak some things on our own rules when it comes to our order of business and agenda. And so essentially a few tweaks on the order of business. Neighborhood spotlight is going to be community spotlight. It's whatever. But the bigger one under that is going from first responder spotlight to city employee spotlight. And I did run this through both the police chief and fire chief first. And they were all for it. That way we can start giving recognition to all city employees that are doing a fantastic job. So we'll start spotlighting not just police and fire, but other city employees. And then moving to a consent agenda for the minutes and the claims and pre-approved claims. This will just help speed up the meeting. We can approve all those at one time or not. And then just a tweak of language from old business to unfinished business. And at the end of the order of business, adding a section for announcements. And then I just want to make sure, so the mayor's office is clear on this, because this is going to affect them. The submission for the agenda deadline is changing to 4 p.m. on Tuesday. And probably the bigger one is that anything, and I've heard a lot of feedback from people when they see the agenda posted and they don't really know what exactly we're doing. And they just see an appropriation. So this would require an executive summary for the agenda items and the ordinances that not to exceed 150 words. This is more for the public, so when they do see an agenda, they kind of have a synopsis of what this exactly is being requested of. And then there's a couple other changes, but essentially the agenda will be released by Friday prior to the meeting, noon Friday prior to the meeting. Also, we're tweaking a language under the passing of ordinances. So previously, the council president could table, after something was passed, the council president had the authority to table things, which for me was just too much power for one position. And so moving forward, if we pass this, in order to table something after it passes a first reading, it would require a majority vote from the council. And then after an ordinance has passed the first reading, it says it shall be placed on the agenda for the next regular meeting. And lastly, we are adding a decorum section, which I think is important. In our rules, we had no rules about decorum. And so this just talks about language, behavior, refusal to obey orders of the presiding officer. And it basically states the authority for a sergeant at arms to remove anyone who intentionally disturbs the decorum of a council meeting. So this just adds a decorum language in there. So just wanted to make sure for transparency, so everyone knows what exactly this is. So we're going to go and move it to the public hearing. So if anyone would like to speak, make your way to the microphone. State your name, address, and you get 3 minutes.
Hi, Bill Creech, 1409 Ironwood, Marion, Indiana. I had a couple things. Number one, the rules about conduct, I want to make sure they go both ways. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that may be stated, but also the rules, I want to make sure that there is a way to maybe how to question a dispute process. And the reason why I say that, I don't think that anything here that the council would do, but I agreed 100% with the Patriot Act when that came out, and it was abused. So I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And that's maybe way level too high above what we're talking about here, but I didn't want to do that. But I was in a county commissioner's meeting, the last one, and one of the county commissioners publicly made negative comments about other people on governing boards as a commissioner. Now, I hope we have a conduct violation rule for that, okay? And one of the things I appreciate you keeping control of the thing today. I didn't appreciate the comments about Mr. Fordyce, and I just want to make sure, hopefully that'll pull that in proper thing. The other one is the suspension of rules. Every time we have something come up, except for with a very few exceptions, we suspend the rules. That's reverse of what Robert's Rules of Order is supposed to be. Suspension of rules is supposed to be an exception situation. And I don't think it allows the public enough time to put a question out to the council person and get an answer from the council or from the mayor, and before it's actually passed. There's been times where we've had questions. The questions, I appreciate them being answered, but it's after it's already passed. It means nothing. So basically, I feel that that was a waste of time because we had no interjection prior to that. And really that rule of passing suspension of the rules is really just an inconvenient step. If it is an inconvenient step, change it from the rule. Make it a rule not to do it. Just bypass the suspension of the rules, get rid of it, and only do a first reading and then go to it. Don't follow Robert's Rules of Order because it's disputed. And the other thing is that if you could limit the number of ordinances.
Your time is up, so thank you.
Limit the number of ordinances so we don't have
Thank you.
15 to 20
Appreciate
at one
it.
time.
Right.
So,
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Public hearing still open. Not seeing anyone make their way, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And I would entertain a motion unless somebody else wants to discuss it. Do we have a motion on the floor? I would entertain a motion if someone would so do so.
I'll make a motion that we pass General Ordinance 11/2024.
Second.
Got a motion by Vice President Cowgill to pass General Ordinance 11-2024 to third reading, a second by Councilman Marshall. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordyce,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein, Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. General Ordinance 11-2024 will move to a third reading. Moving into new business, General Ordinance 12-2024, first reading.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Marion, Indiana, amending Marion City Code Chapter 153 zoning ordinance and providing for the effective date thereof, the rezoning of 912 South Miller Avenue and 2 parcels on West 9th Street. Speaking, city engineer and city planner, Mike Pratt.
Good evening. So I got one more title on there too. So we haven't had one of these in quite some time, actually, where we've had a rezoning request for rezoning, right? About 3 years. So it's been a while. So what you have before you this evening is an area at 9th and Miller. The actual petitioner is not here, but we have Sabrina Jones who will be purchasing the property from the petitioner, which is New Life Church. New Life Church presented their request to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission gave a favorable recommendation to switch it from I2 to R3. If you look at the overall map in that area, I2 there isn't very much in that area, and this may be the last parcel. The old, and I'm going to probably say it wrong, the old Malibu, is that right? Is that how you say it? Did I say it right? Okay, Malibu is R3 now, which means that anything that's built in an R3 could be in that parcel just as easy as it could be this parcel. So there are some things that if it stays at I2 that the neighbors may not like, and there might be some things if it goes to R3 that the neighbors might not like, but that's not specifically what we just look at the zoning itself as the Plan Commission, trying to clear up some of the issues that are out there. And this is certainly one that once it was presented to us and the Plan Commission looked at it and reviewed it, that they came to the recommendation that it should probably be an R3 similar to what is in the surrounding area. So if you have any questions specifically from the zoning, I'll be glad to answer that. And if you want any particulars about what might be on that site, we'll let Sabrina come up and I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any council members with questions? Councilwoman Devine?
Can you explain the R1 or the I2 versus R3? I assume I2 is an industrial base.
Yes.
Is that more the commercial for
Correct.
like what
So,
New Life Church is?
well, I mean, New Life Church purchased it. I don't know how long ago they purchased it. Sabrina might be able to tell us. 2012, and they had some different thoughts of what they were going to do with it, but that never came to light. And they knew, I think, even back then, that what they wanted to do wouldn't work with under the I2. The I2, you can have just to give you some examples of what you can do in an I2. You could have auto sales, you could have auto body, you could have open storage, you can have fuel and ice, which is across the street. You can have a cemetery, you can have disabled vehicle storage. It's a lot broader about what you can do in an I2 that you can do in an R3. So that's, and when we started looking at the area across the street, it just seemed, because you all probably know the history of that area better than I do, but that was the administrative building for the plant at one time. Mm-hmm. So that's why that was zoned the way it was.
I would love to hear what the plans are for this, because every time I drive by there and go, man, I wish something was done with that property. So I'd love to hear what your plans are.
Good evening. My first plan was, I really wasn't sure, to be honest. I do have rentals, multiple rentals in the community. I also sell one house a year. I started attending New Life years ago. I knew we owned the building. I was tired of looking at it. I mowed it. I was over it. Once I started stabilizing my finances, I decided I wanted to take on the project. I prayed about it. I talked to the new preacher that we have, and I purchased the building. And my intent is to utilize my own finances, maybe apply for a grant if it's available, and put at least 8 units in it to be multifamily, ranging 2 to 3 bedrooms, because I believe that is the highest need in the community right now.
And do you currently own these lots?
The title work is being done. So I haven't paid the check yet, but the title work, they said it takes 7 days.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other council members? Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I got
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we change that with the current owner? Even though that she's gonna be the new owner and it's not transferred yet and she doesn't have a deed and title?
Yeah, so you're not actually transferring it to a specific individual anyways, you're just
Right,
zoning
right,
that,
right,
yes, so
right.
yeah, that doesn't matter.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. I would entertain a motion. First reading. Did get that one right.
Mr. Chairman,
I'll make-
go ahead, Brian.
I'll make a motion that we pass general ordinance 12/2024 on to second reading public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Calgill, second by Councilman Kane. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. General Ordinance 12-2024 will move to a second reading. Public hearing. Moving on to Appropriation Ordinance 32-2024, first reading.
An ordinance of the city of Marion, Indiana, appropriating the amount of $600,000 from the general fund for alley maintenance. Speaking, Mayor Ronald Morrell, Jr.
I mean, I can go through the whole presentation again, or is it? It's, okay.
You're fine.
Okay.
Just for public, it's the same thing we talked about for, I don't know, an hour previously about the alley maintenance. So,
Can you tell me what-
yes.
Can you tell me what the percentage was
I
of the
made-
first one today that you did gravel with compared to that one?
I thought you were ready for a motion.
I'll take a motion.
Appropriation ordinance 32-2024, second reading, public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Fordyce, second by Councilman Brunner. Any other discussion? Easy now. We have the decorum yet? All right. So, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordice, Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. It'll move on to a second reading public hearing. Moving on to Resolution 9-2029. It says 2029 on there. It should be, sorry. Missed that. 2024. Hey, I was reading, it's late. I'm reading what it says.
A
It says
resolution
2029.
approving the agreement by the city of Marion, Grant County, Indiana, and Obie's Barbecue LLC. Speaking, city administration.
I want to commend Mr. Obi himself for sticking it out for 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
To get this,
Worth
to
it.
get this approved. So the process of how we can, remember we voted on the Riverfront District. So now this is the process in which we need to go about to be able to start issuing these licenses. So the first thing is he submitted the application to the mayor's office. I liked it and I approved it. I want to support their business. They've been a staple in our growth of downtown. Great food, great atmosphere, and this will tremendously help their business. So I decided I want to move on with it. So then I have to do a letter of recommendation to the state. Then after that, we then come to you for your approval of this resolution, and then we send off a package together of his application, whatever business's application, my letter of recommendation, and the council's approval of an ordinance to the Alcohol Tobacco Commission, and then they take their time, whether it's, they say it's a range between 30 to 90 days before they get the approval back and issue the license for the liquor license in the Riverfront District. So this is the first one, Obies.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody have questions?
Is it three-way?
Yeah.
Councilman Fordyce?
This has to go for the local ABZ too, doesn't it?
No, because when we voted that ordinance into place, that skips over them, just for these licenses.
Okay,
Yeah.
for the Riverfront District
Yeah.
license. Okay, thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Perfect. I just want to add that if there is one business that is well deserving of this, I would say it's Obie's Barbecue for their commitment to downtown. And you manage your business very well, and I trust that you'll manage this liquor license as well if it's passed. So with nothing else, I would entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to pass resolution 9-2024 to just pass it.
Yeah.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Fordyce, second by Councilman Brunner. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordyce,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes, resolution 9-2024 has passed. And finally, review of CF1 form. I'll just say, speaking me, there's nothing to say to it. We did receive one more CF1 form. I did email the council, but I'll say that this particular person was kind of dependent on Janet Pearson, who worked for the city, to remind her, and Janet's not here anymore, so she basically apologized and realized it wasn't submitted. So this was a CF1 for a residential. I did update and send a new email. Hopefully everyone got that today with the update from Chuck Binker. And yeah, any questions, discussions on this CF1 form? Not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass the CF1 form for Laura Marshall.
Second.
Motion by Councilman King, second by Councilman Marshall. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordyce,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Witten.
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes, CF1 for Laura Marshall has been approved. And before we adjourn, I was told, Aisha told me to tell all the council members that there are several forms that need all of our signatures, so do not leave until you get all the signatures on the forms, and Aisha gives you a blessing. So anyways, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Kane, second by Councilman, Vice President Cowgill. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Marshall,
Aye.
Fordyce,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. We're adjourned.
All right, guys, have a good night.
Thanks. Hey, take it easy next time, okay? Give us a break.
Everybody. Get you a late night snack and go to sleep.
I'm sorry. It made it that way over.